golden thread that just attaches my arm to the brush. And it's not just about I put the paint on. You know, you can hold that brush in so many different positions, and each one's going to give you a specific gesture of sculpting the paint onto the surface and even applying it. And there's so many different mediums you can use with oil. You know, every artist has their own concoction. Some artists just use oils as they are. Some people don't mix anything, but I like to use a little bit of the terpenoid or Gamsol, the little bit of walnut oil or linseed oil, and so that gives me just like a perfect blending with the oil, and it's like warm butter on toast.
Yeah, wow. I'm feeling like this is going to be useful for people who even aren't seeing the pictures because of the fact that it makes you want to go buy oils and get some absorbent paper and some resistant paper and all sorts of different surfaces to experiment with. I mean, you're not the first person that I've heard who loves oil paint who has likened it to painting with colored butter. Marshall again with the client I've wanted to pitch for, the Great Courses Plus. It isn't that I've been listening to the Great Courses since the days of cassettes and CDs and before your parents conceived you. It's that their huge library is now online, and there are so many titles that this could be more than a 1-minute pitch. This could be 2 or 3 years of us mining the wisdom from only a few of these hundreds of courses, chosen discerningly, made into what I think would be the most awesome, high-quality, lifelong education program we could get. But me telling you about how much they've been part of my life probably won't do as much as the titles. Here's where you open the course to be introduced to a whole world of resources on that particular topic. I'm doing that, seeking mutual interests, and you can get 1 month of all of the titles for free. Use our code, thegreatcoursesplus.com/draftsman. I am kind of interested what Draftsman listeners would choose as their favorites on the Great Courses Plus. thegreatcoursesplus.com/draftsman.
This episode is sponsored by Proko Drawing Lessons. If you want to learn how to draw, if you want to improve your knowledge of figure drawing and figure anatomy, look no further than Proko.com. There are hundreds of free lessons on our YouTube channel, but the premium courses over at Proko.com/store have more detailed videos and a lot of assignment demonstrations. Our anatomy course also includes 3D models of all the bones and muscles that you can rotate around and study from right in your browser. It has PDF ebooks for each lesson, so you can review the information whenever you want to come back to it. And if you're looking to save some money, we have several discounted package deals. Head over to Proko.com and start learning.
If you want perspective projects from me, January 2021, I'll do a workshop. You can get my feedback or take it for cheap and just watch. Go to my website, martialart.com. It seems to me that one of the most important things about mastering any medium is to love the medium, to love it so much that you want to work with it for many, many, many hours, because you will. Why work with something, why learn to play an instrument that you don't like playing? Well, it brings me to another question about this. April, you have a time-intensive style. Your work is not like it's a quick slapdash watercolor that takes adept brushwork, but it never takes more than an hour to do the piece. You've got a lot of pieces that are extremely invested in many hours. Can you tell us the good and bad of that?
I'll tell you the bad first. The bad, because it is labor intensive, now more so as I've gotten older and started to learn tricks from my teachers about, you know, if you have an idea, first you do a thumbnail and you figure out the composition first instead of just diving in, which I love to do because like I said, I live on a whim. So I love to just dive in and I'll spend hours on a painting or a drawing that I end up not liking later on. And the ugly stage gets so ugly that I take the drawing and I put it away, and I might not revisit it in 2 years from now. I'll just even forget I even did the damn thing until I discover it when I'm cleaning out. I'm like, oh yeah, there's that painting I started that I hated. Well, it doesn't look so bad now. Maybe I'll give it another shot. And I have been able to finish artwork that way. But professionally, that's probably not the best way to put work out there. So, because it is labor intensive, now I'm learning the tools to get all the things in place to make sure that before you take the long journey, or AKA go on a hike, you have to pack your backpack with food. You've got to have water, food, good shoes, you need a map, and the thumbnail is your map. the color studies, that's like, you know, that's the water I need. Like, I need provisions before I go on a long trip. Because it is labor intensive, and learning the tools and taking your class also really helped me tremendously about understanding good composition. You know, because if I am going to commit hours and hours into a piece, I gotta have an idea of where I'm going with this thing, so it doesn't get shoved under my bed for 2 years, and then I finish it later. So that is the bad. The good is that I love it. I love the ugly. After the ugly stage has passed, and there are several, but there is that. By spending all those hours of detail, it's not until after you've done all the work of figuring out the composition and the color studies and what you're going to do, and then after all of that is done, and you get through that ugly stage, and then you start to get into the detail stage, oh my gosh. I am so happy I could just die. I could die happy just rendering my life away. I love it.
Yeah, it's the dessert stage.
Yes, exactly.
I sense that about you. You know, I wonder whether, since you are so productive, when April does the trade shows, her booth is filled with original art that she sells, and one wonders, how are there enough hours in your lifetime to do this much developed art? I've wondered whether all of those hours doing something you love that much is why you carry an aura of calm around you. Do you feel that your work, when you work a lot, do you feel relaxed as a result of it? Do you feel blissful?
When the painting is going good, yes, I'm blissful. I listen to a lot of music when I draw or when I paint, because I know that it plays a huge part into me getting into that space, into that fold of feeling really good. And if I'm feeling really relaxed and really good, you know, music plays a big part in that for me, then I'm more likely to want to sit there for hours and find that place to where now I found a little slice of heaven when everything is going good, and now I'm ready to live in that place. You know, once you get on that inspiration train, you don't want to get off.
Your passion for it is infectious. It makes me want to spend the rest of my life in my studio experimenting with media like you do. Do you do anything digitally?
I have some good friends of mine that have taught me how to use Procreate, and I really didn't get into learning how to do digital till I went into LCAD, and I took a class there, learned a lot about digital and the importance of understanding it. I mean, you know, there's Illustrator and Photoshop, but Procreate has been a tool that I've used a lot recently because it allows me to just get it down, just figure out that color arrangement, figure out the composition at a small scale, and not worry about the details. Because like I said, the detail is something I can, you know, every time, I'm like a moth to a light bulb when it comes to detail.
Yeah.
If there's detail there, I'm going to sniff it out and I'm going to spend hours on it. And I know that that's not the point of, you know, when you're first coming up with a piece. But I do some digital just to do a mock-up of what I think I want. Just basically just come up with something that way.
It changes the process, though.
Mm-hmm.
And so is your process, do you have a set process which for every piece you tend to do? For example, you learned to work in stages before committing so that you've got enough planning to keep you safer. You also seem like you experiment around a lot. Does that mean experimenting around have to do with how you approach a piece in a macro way from beginning to end?
It's the same yet always changing. So the Procreate that I have now, that's new. That's something I just started doing in the last year. And for a long time, Marshall, I swore to myself, I'll never go digital. I will be traditional forever. And then I have some very supportive friends in my artistic circle that have educated me through the years that it's just a tool, and it's important to learn all those tools. Even though that might not be my primary tool, it's still a good idea to learn them at least. And they're right, because now I have another tool in my toolbox I can use. Even though I'm not a digital artist, it has really helped me to just come up with something quickly. I would say for the future, I would hope that I continue to learn about Procreate and digital to just hash out some rough ideas. But then I'm going to take those rough ideas and then put it on paper and still keep them very rough and play with the medium, see how this looks in watercolor, see how this looks in acrylic, or how does that look in gouache, or how does that look with just a pen drawing, and and still very much have my traditional process still in there. Procreate is just there to help me hash it out quickly. And from there, traditional, I can't wait to get to traditional medium every time. Like Procreate, it's the bike that I ride to get to the bus stop that I need to get to the place I want to go. That's what it is for me.
Well, it's great to hear that, and in any encouragement, since the world is digital, you have something that others who work digitally exclusively do not have. You have original works of art. I have one of them, in fact. I own one, although I don't have it yet because the lockdown has kept me from getting it. But yes, the thing that part of what made me want it was the image itself, but also the fact that this is a real piece that you invested all that time in. Okay, we've talked about that you were raised in an environment of support, that your dad was an artist, that he still is an artist, that you had access to materials and inspiration, that you love particular media, that you've learned something about process. Tell us anything else that inspires you.
Other artists, tremendously.
Name some that have been important to you.
Oh, well, we could be here all day.
I know.
I got a list.
Let's get started.
All right. Jeff Beasley, James Gurney, Donato Giancola, Dan Dos Santos, Scott Fisher, Greg Sanchez, Rebecca Gay, Boris Vallejo, Frank Frazetta, Norman Rockwell, Howard Kyle, Sargent. Let's see, I got a whole book right here. James Jean, Terrell Whitlatch, Joe Weatherly, Drew Struzan, of course, duh, don't forget him.
Yeah, don't forget Drew Struzan.
J.W. Cooper, Paul Bonner, John Howe, Solomith Wolfing. The list just goes on, and every year I find new artists that inspire me.
They inspire you. Do they affect your technique or your imagery? When you see someone whose work you like, you say, hey, I could try something like that?
Yeah, it's like watching the Olympics, and you see what people can do. It inspires you to try it too, and now you know it's possible. You want to look inside yourself and see, well, could I do that too? I mean, they have their own method of how they do things, but now you see what's possible, what you can create, and it inspires you to dig deep in yourself and figure out, well, what's my voice? So what am I trying to say? And clearly, I mean, every artist has their own voice that they're trying to say, and only you can say it the way that you can. And I'm just trying to figure out what that is for me too, because if it wasn't for these artists, for the art that I've seen in my life, I wouldn't be where I am today, because that has been a huge inspiration for me, are these people who have dedicated their whole lives to making great art. And I hope that I can be one of them someday. That'd be one of my greatest wishes.
There is something about seeing somebody do something so well, and then you feel like it resonates within you, I think I could do that. Do you want me to tell about your, who has sought out your work, or do you want to tell the story?
You can tell the story.
It might have been the first, well, I don't remember whether it was the first or the second time that you set up a booth at CTN.
Oh, it's the first one.
That was the first one, okay. And for a first show at a convention for Drew Struzan to come by and see your artwork and buy one of your originals was, I don't know, sounds like a pretty big deal to me.
Oh, you know what? No, I'm sorry. It was Designer Con. He bought my book at CTN, but then him and his wife, Dylan Struzan, bought my original at Designer Con last year.
Did you negotiate and like keep bringing the price up for him, or were you pretty easy on him?
Dylan and Drew, and Dylan was the one. She said to me, she asked me, how much is that dragon over there in your booth? Drew and I are interested. And I told her the price, and she looked at me, she said, well, we love it and we'll take it.
Yay!
I was like, ah! Couldn't believe it. Oh, it's such a privilege.
Isn't that exciting to have had someone who you admire as much as him and of his stature to see your work and want to own an original? That must be a thrill.
It's indescribable because, I grew up with his art. That was another book that my dad had in his studio, was the work of, Drew Struzan's paintings. And, to have one of your childhood heroes actually want a piece of your art, him and Dylan both wanted it. It's just such an honor and a privilege to have my dragon in their house.
And they've invited you over and you've gotten to know them as friends, correct?
Yes.
Was the book that you had, the Dreams for Sale one, that was the perfect bound, had a blue cover, had his hand drawing something with a paintbrush? Does that sound familiar? And a color palette? Because if it was around in your childhood, he came out with that book around 1985. Would that have been the one, or is it one of the more recent ones?
I think it is that one that my dad had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
That was the book that came out when he did a show in Brea that was movie poster illustrators, but it was mainly him. And then he did a workshop shortly thereafter in Lake Arrowhead. And oh gosh, everybody was poring over that book because that was the one collection where you could see Drew's work and the body of it. Can you tell us anything about your daily schedule and how your studio is set up? And is that an evolving work?
So yeah, my daily schedule, and I love that you're asking me this because this is what I've wanted to know from my artistic heroes. It's like, what's your schedule like? How do you keep on top of it? Do you stick with it, like a regimented schedule, and do you show up no matter what? And when do you work? When do you eat? When do you take a break? And now I look at my schedule and I think of it nothing magical. So I try and wake up at the right time every day, the same time. Occasionally I do sleep in because I stay up. I'm both a harsh night owl and I love to wake up early, which doesn't give me a lot of hours for sleep.
Wow.
Yeah, but somehow I seem to thrive pretty well. Not the normal rigorous amount of sleep that most people take. I can, sometimes I get 4 hours in the night of sleep, and somehow I wake up with more energy that way. I don't know. I'm a freak of nature. So I do tend to do a lot of my painting and drawing in the nighttime, and my dad was the same way. I feel like I'm just so much more focused in the evening, because now all the distractions are gone. There's really nowhere to go or things to do. It's nighttime, and it's just me and my studio and the willingness to create. It's like my muse loves the nighttime, and that's when I really feel that inspiration build, and that's where I really feel like I sit down and I do good work, is later in the evening. And I used to work till 2 or 3 in the morning because I was just so immersed in what I was doing, and now that I'm older, I'll make it to about 2 a.m., not 3 anymore. And I really shouldn't be doing that, but I can't help it because I like it so much. And I do a lot of other stuff during the day. Like right now I'm in school, I'm taking a creative writing class right now, and I'm taking a painting class right now with Donato, who's one of my hero of heroes. He's an amazing, very well-known fantasy illustrator and fine artist, and he's done so much work for book covers and tour books, and he's done conventions, and he does a lot of Lord of the Rings paintings, all in oil. And so right now I'm taking a class with him till the end of this year, and I've already got my money's worth. I'm only like in class 2, and that's been really helpful. So, but during the day, a lot of it is, you know, and I do my best to exercise and stay healthy that way, and drink lots of water and eat well, and you know, go walk around town. But primarily a lot of my work is done during the nighttime, because that's where I just feel like I'm really inspired to do it.
Yeah, I think you're not alone in that. I think I've heard that so many times from artists.
Mm-hmm. Or if it's raining.
Or if it's raining, you mean when it's raining you feel like you do better work, you huddle indoors?
I couldn't be happier. Then I'm just creating all day long. I'm not waiting until the nighttime. And I've met a lot of artists that love the rain somehow. Because you're forced to stay indoors, so you just, you know, it's okay to sit down and draw now all day if you want to. It's okay. Maybe it's that.
Yeah. And because it's raining out there, there's a sense of security and comfort that I am in my warm, dry space. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that way too. When it rains, it means, okay, that's another excuse to stay in. Do you deal with imposter syndrome?
Yes, I do.
How do you deal with it?
My medication for that, communication has really helped me with the imposter syndrome. Like, for example, my Patreon page that I'll be officially launching at the end of this month. So officially October 1st is when it's going up. And I almost didn't start this whole process because I really, even though I've done so much research and I've talked to so many artists and I feel like I've gathered so much information about it and I feel like I'm ready, I still feel like I'm not. Like I'm not ready. And I'm just an imposter that's attempting this thing, and I shouldn't be doing it. And I texted my girlfriend last night, and I'm like, I'm freaking out. I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, you got this. It's okay. You got this. And, you know, and that's, like, to me, that's just huge because
Hey guys, here are my socials. You guys can follow me on my social media platforms, links in the description. And last but not least, of course, if you like this video, make sure you stun with a thumbs up. And also don't forget to It's a good committee. Bro, it's crazy to me how far I came, and I want to let everyone know that you're literally here before I blow up, bro. You're here before I blow up. I haven't blown up yet. If you're in it right now, you are rocking with me before I blow up. This is nowhere near where I'm gonna be in the next year. I want to let everyone know right now. We almost. Bro, I just can't wait to show you guys what I have. I literally envisioned it like I'm gonna speak this all in existence, bro. And I want to show you guys a tweet to motivate you guys something, bro. Hey, guys, look at the date on the chat. Look at the date. One day Aiden Ross will be somebody. I tweeted this out in 2018. You guys are not gonna be able to find this tweet. But look at this, bro. I want this to motivate you guys. Listen, I wasn't shit either, chat. I spoke it into existence. I knew I was gonna make it. I knew I was gonna do this shit. I knew, who would have thought that I'd be collabing with all these people with shit? I never knew. Nobody ever knew. You call me Travis? I did. I definitely did. I definitely did. But nah, bro, like, I just knew it. I knew I was built for it. I knew I was gonna do it. I did it. You know what I mean? And, I just knew I wasn't gonna fail, and I just wanted this shit really fucking bad, bro. And when it's all said and done, guys, I don't know who's gonna rock with me till the boat crashes, whatever the fuck you wanna say. I'll write a book, I'll be in movies, I'll do documentaries, I'll produce shit. I want you guys to literally know right now, you are a day one fan if you're in my shit. Not even a fan, bro. What the fuck am I saying? I hate that word. Because I hate the word fan because it's like, it's like looking down on you guys. You guys are all equal, you're my family. You guys are day one supporters, aka you guys are day one family members. We're all family. What do you guys want to be? Who's the stepdad? Who's the uncle? Who's the wife? Who's the... No, I'm the wife. Who in this chat would fuck me right now? I need to know. Who the fuck would fuck my ass right now? That's crazy. So anyone that needs that motivation, this shit. How are you guys finding the tweet, bro? Anyways, I tweeted that bitch in 2018. It had like 20 likes, bro. Okay, 3 a.m. I tweeted. I had late night thoughts in my room. Okay, I knew I was gonna do it, and I know you guys can do it too. I believe in each and every single one of you motherfuckers. Be creative, be unique, do something that you don't see really that many people do it, or if you see something that, like, if you see like a trend, maybe you could do it better, and maybe that's why you should hop on it. But nah, bro, I want everyone to know that you guys are all capable of doing what I'm doing right now, whether it's streaming, YouTube, TikTok, what the fuck it is, bro. And my biggest thing is like, Aiden, how do you get the first average viewers of 5 to 10? I didn't have this when I first started. You have TikTok, bro. Make a fucking sad TikTok about, yo, I gotta change my life. I gotta prove my haters wrong. I gotta prove my dad and my mom wrong. I gotta prove my teacher wrong. Fuck my teacher. I gotta do something. Make a TikTok about that shit. It'll blow up. You'll get a lot of recognition, a lot of supporters. I'll tell you what, TikTok is the fucking way out right now. You motherfuckers better use your platforms right now. You guys have tons of fucking platforms. You have tons of shit to do. You guys better use that shit, bro. Use that shit. Make that shit happen. Please. Guys, change your fucking lives. Don't work a 9-to-5 job. Be your own boss. I want you guys to literally understand. And the reason why I'm speaking on a motivational type of level is because make your fucking TikTok and go crazy. Stop being fucking lazy. Fuck, bro. Every day you don't work towards your goal, guess what? You're fucking yourself over. Here's how I look at it. You guys are constructors. People that build houses and shit. You work construction. Every day that you do something and you gain a follower or you get a view or something, you're adding a brick to your wall. Fortunately, I've been grinding my ass over the past 2 years. My shit is pretty high up. Every day I had to stack bricks. Brick after brick after brick. You stack that shit tall. I want you motherfuckers. There's 15,000 people. Make something of your fucking life. You can get knocked down up it. Guys, when you're a baby and you first start trying to walk, right? What happens? You keep falling over and shit. You get back up and you keep walking and shit, right? Do the same shit. Apply that shit with this shit. Not many people can fucking do it. Not many people can fucking do it. I'm being serious, bro. But it takes a lot of. This is one of the hardest things to do. Is to make it as the 1% of people that do entrepreneurship, rapping, music, whatever the fuck it is, bro. And I have a couple people say Bronny made you. Let me tell you something about that. I love Bronny. That's my guy. And you know what? You can say whatever you want. If Bronny made me, bro, how come after I stopped playing with Bronny and after we stopped having to be in my streams, how come my viewers didn't go down, buddy? You're a hating piece of shit. I want you to know that mentality's not. Of course he helped me, bro. That wager literally blew me the fuck up. When I was averaging 2,000 viewers, that Ticino wager put me to 3,500 active average viewers. Of course that helped me. However, what happened after that? I went only up there, right? Because I'm an entertaining motherfucker. I know my work. So that's that. Let me get this straight. If I was playing with Bronny, right, and I was streaming it, how come you guys did not stop watching me after I stopped playing with Bronny? It's because you like me. So I want you guys to understand that, bro. You have a horrible mindset if you think someone made you. Of course he helped me out. I've helped people out too. But they deserve to be where they're at. Party, for example. You guys are telling me, guys, you guys are telling me right now, Party, you guys want to know Party for me, but guess what? He deserved to be where he's at. Like, that's stupid as fuck. It's a horrible mindset. Anybody is self-made, anybody can do this shit. And guess what, bro? People that are talented, entertaining, I gotta find you because I want you to be on this shit, on my streaming shit. Seriously. I want to change lives, bro. I really want to change the fucking lives. That's all I want to do. I want to do Mr. Beast type shit. I want to give money away. I want to fucking change lives, bro. I want to put people on. Fuck it. We're announcing shit. Fuck it. I'm going to announce it. 2021, I'm building my own entertainment IRL content team. It's going to be an org. I'm building it, bro. From the ground up. You could have 5 followers, but you could be funny as fuck and you're automatically getting signed. I said it, bro. I wasn't supposed to announce this shit for a long time. I don't give a fuck. I'm announcing this shit, bro. I'm announcing this shit. If you have what it takes, you're entertaining as fuck, and I come across you one day, I'm putting you on a fucking contract. It's that simple, bro. I don't give a fuck. I see right through followers. Followers don't mean shit to me because it's like, if you're 1 follower, you could be 10 times more entertaining than someone with 200,000 followers. I want people that are funny as fuck, entertaining, and just know how to handle this industry and know how to keep expanding and shit. And I'm gonna find those motherfuckers, and we're gonna build a super team. Because guess what, guys? Nobody makes anyone. I want to put people on, and you're going to prove to everybody that you can do it yourself. You don't need anybody's help. If I give you that platform, use that platform and grow motherfucking huge, bro. For example, it's like this. Yo, Tricks for the tag, get this subs. Everyone jumping over the fucking chat. Much love to you, Trick. Listen, it's like this. Party, for example. No, I've seen him before. You would not be shit without Aiden. You're wrong as fuck. That kid was making it regardless. I helped him make it quicker. Right? Guys, you can't lie. Party made the streams funny as fuck. Did he not? He made the E-dates. He carried some of those motherfucking E-dates. Right? That motherfucking Party is a one of a kind. I want motherfuckers like that in my shit. Party automatically has a contract on my team. Alright? I'm making a team. I'm making a fat team. I don't care how big it is. You have to be funny. I don't want you to be one of these boring ass streamers who pick up the fucking controller and look at their shit like this. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thanks for the song. Thank you. You're boring as fuck. Get the fuck out. I need energy, bro. I don't give a fuck. The energy you give in is what you receive. God damn, bro. Fuck. Where are all my motherfucking entertainers at? I'm trying to build something here. Just keep tweeting at me. Keep sending me videos. Keep fucking going under my tweets. You guys don't think when I tweet something out, I look under my tweets? Of course I do. But nah, bro. I did it, Chad. I did it. We did it. I want you motherfuckers to win. I want to see motherfuckers not be stuck in a 9-to-5 serving job. And there's no problem with that. You guys know I was busting tables for 2 years before I am where I am. 2018 when I made that tweet about one day Aiden Ross would be somebody, I was busting tables at a restaurant making $10 an hour, bro. I was a busboy. Look where I am now. I invested all that money to a setup because I knew I would make it. Now here's my thing. I want to see other motherfuckers do it too. Guess what? TikTok is your way. Everyone right now, download TikTok right now. Start making some content on that bitch. I want you guys. That's the quickest way to blow up. I'm sorry. It is. You guys gotta stick with the trends. At first, of course, you'll never touch that level. You gotta do it, bro. You gotta be on top of the world. Anybody hating, by the way, what I'm saying, you're a negative person and you're gonna be a miserable person. Because you're the type of person that doesn't like, you're the type of person that's gonna be stuck on working your 9 to 5 and being unhappy with your life instead of trying to change your fucking life, bro. And there's nothing wrong with working on that 5, but you have to have goals to try to get out of that, bro. You can't get rich working on that 5, right? So the way to get rich is to work on that 5 temporarily, save your bread, stack some bread, put some investments in, get some ideas together, get some people together, and it makes you happen, bro. And that's how you do it, guys. And I really wanted to just start my stream up with some positivity and announce that big announcement. And I love you guys, man. You guys are my life, and I would be shit without you guys, bro. And I'll never forget where I came from, and I'll never forget who the fuck supports me. Scream, but whatever it is, bro, I'm gonna stick to my roots. But just know the kid will never change. I promise you guys. Let me just talk to you guys about some motivational shit for real. You guys are all breathing right now. We're all breathing the same air. We're all, breathing and eating, and we just all do the same shit. I say this all the time, but it's like, bro, I know a lot of you guys don't really have motivation. You don't have confidence in yourself. Your parents, your fake friends don't believe in you. Just cut these people out of your life, bro. Cut them out of your shit. Don't tell them shit. Stick to yourself and grind the fuck up, bro. You know what I mean? You all have the same powers as somebody like LeBron or somebody like, you know what I mean? Somebody like fucking Tom Brady or like Polo G. Like, you're all talented in some way. Obviously, I'm not saying you're gonna be as good as LeBron, but you have the, like, you want to be in the NBA, you have that, bro. You have it. You guys all have this shit. You know what I mean? So just realize that you guys all have a hidden talent. And if you know you're not meant to be working in an office, or you're not working in, and it's okay to be in an office until you're even like 40, 50. Jeff Bezos, Gary Vee, these guys didn't get rich until they were in their late, 30s, 40s, 50s. Just realize this, bro. It takes time. Some people get it quicker, but you're meant to learn shit. Everything happens for a reason. So you're meant to go through a lot of lessons in life, a lot of obstacles that make you grow as a person. So just understand that, like, you guys gotta understand where I'm coming from. It's like you guys gotta see the bigger picture. If you're not getting it right away, it might take more time. You might see, I got a 19, 20. You gotta understand, I'm meant to get this shit at 19, 20 because I'm meant to be doing other shit in other industries to where I can change other people's lives. Just remember that success is not about how much money you make. Success is about how many people's lives you change. That's what you guys gotta understand, because you can't take that shit with you when you die. You know what I mean? You can't take money with you when you die. You can't take followers with you when you die. What you can take with you when you die is you can take the fact that you changed so-and-so's life. You know what I mean? You can do that. You can take that with you when you die, because when you die, you're gonna be remembered. Yo, I can't believe he's passed away. All I can say is that motherfucker, when I used to watch his streams, he used to just fucking teach me that, oh, I could do this, I could do that. Give me mind to it, I could do that, I could do this. And just teach me all these lessons. I'm sure you guys tune to my shit, 95% of the time we're laughing and shit, having fun and entertainment, you know what I mean? But that other 5%, you guys can gain some shit. The late night crew, all you motherfuckers that are loyal right now in my shit, you know what I mean? Like, you understand what I'm talking about. You guys are in this shit with me. You guys fuck with me for me because you're attracted to the energy. Real recognize real. Everyone watching me spelling W's and actually understanding what I'm saying right now, understanding what I'm saying, you're actually like bound to do something great. Because a lot of you, I'm losing viewers right now. These people that are leaving, guess what, bro? They don't give a fuck because they're not actually like on the same consciousness as we are. You know what I mean? I know a lot of you guys understand what the fuck I'm saying and are actually gonna make something in your life. But just understand it takes time, self-belief, self-worth. Don't be insecure, bro. Just because you see somebody else get it quicker does not mean shit. Just because gaming is dry doesn't mean shit. Do something unique, do something crazy. That Fargo kid, for example, he's making videos about, oh, in 5 years. Like, do shit like that. Like, do crazy videos like that. Who thinks of this shit? That Zoom guy, that guy that did these fake Zooms with people edited in. Like, that's genius, bro. You just gotta fucking realize it. You gotta be unique, you gotta be different. You gotta just start your own shit up. Look at people like Co, right? Comes out of the blue, just crazy talent, right? This shit is possible. It's hard. It's hard. You got COVID in the way, but it's just an excuse. Everything is an excuse. What I just said is an excuse. You just take that motherfucking excuse, you put that shit to the side, you run right through that motherfucker. Right? You gotta jump over that motherfucker. It's that simple. If you want it bad, guess what? You'll go out and do it. You know what I mean? It's that simple. If you want, for example, when you're hungry, bro, what are you gonna do when you're hungry? You're gonna do no matter what, bro. You're gonna walk that mile if there's no car. You're gonna, you know what I mean? You're gonna you do whatever you can, bro. You're gonna scrap up money if you don't got no money to go buy that food. You know what I mean? You're gonna do whatever it takes to get that food. You know why? Because if you're hungry towards something, bro, if you're hungry, you're gonna find no excuse and find a way to make it happen. That's why I stream tonight. For example, I had the worst shit ever happen to me. The most scary shit. Most scariest shit happened to me. I'll tell you guys soon, okay? But Amy had a talk with me, and you know what I mean? She was motivated to stream. I really felt like shit again, and I did not want to stream again today. And you're gonna meet people, and don't force relationships in life. They're gonna come to you. The ones that are meant to be and stay in your life, they'll come to you, bro. They will come to you, and they'll stick on you. And if they're meant to be, you know, you have temporary, and you have long-term people in your life. So the temporary people, they're gonna be cut, and you're gonna get a bunch of red flags about them. Realize and pay attention to shit. Pay attention to signs and pay attention to how people move. Pay attention to people's energy. Feel the energy, bro. Energy is very important. It's very, very important, okay? I'm your friend. I'm your brother. I don't want you guys to look up to me. Just because I have a lot of, there's a lot of followers. Oh, you talk shit doesn't mean anything, bro. I've met people with fucking tons of followers and they're weird as fuck, bro. It doesn't mean anything, bro. You gotta pay attention to how people are as a person. This follower shit, you can't take that shit with you. You die. This shit was fake. This shit was all chat. This shit was all a made up fucking app. This shit's all honestly, bro. This shit's all honestly, it's for you. It's sad. So a lot of people can't really realize it, but people really get broken down and unmotivated in this shit. Use this shit to your advantage. Don't use this shit to get broken down and lost into. Don't be kind of like somebody who just sits there and fucking waits for something to happen. You gotta use this shit to your advantage. TikTok, bro, make TikToks, bro. It's the easiest fucking platform right now, bro. What the fuck? If I had TikTok when I started streaming when in 2K19 days, 2K20 days, well obviously 2K20K, but 2K19 days, bro. Just make TikTok, make YouTube, make content, bro. Everything, bro. Everywhere. You guys see why I always promote everything? Because, bro, you gotta be popping everywhere, bro. You gotta be popping everywhere. Interaction on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, popping. Why? Because motherfucker, I'm trying to get motherfuckers to fuck with me on everything. And I'm not even a TikToker. Don't troll, chat. I'm not a TikToker. I'm not a TikToker. Shout out to Super Madden, bro. You got me my first 200K on TikTok. Anyways, listen. All I'm saying is this. Apply everything, your knowledge, everything. You're all very smart. I call you guys creatives. You know why? Because everybody in here watching that's actually listening to what I'm saying and taking this shit in, you're a creative. You're meant to accomplish something really big in this world. It's that simple, bro. Nobody's gonna get it. Every day that you don't work towards your goal, do something, bro. Do something. Go get a job, stack some money, start some rent. You wanna start a business, start your business up. whatever it is, bro. Reselling, that's the resell shit, bro. Resell. I'm not gonna lie, SSB merch is gonna be hot. I'm not gonna lie, I hate resellers, bro. I don't fuck with them, but I respect the grind. But when SB merch comes, buy a bot and buy some SB merch and resell that motherfucker. Our shit's gonna be hot. But I'm just kidding. Don't do that. I will come down, hunt down, and fuck you, bro. No, but for real, just understand what I'm saying. Like, there's so many grinds and hustles. Work, bro, work. Mark Cuban, bro. I think he used to go to NBA type shit on like a fucking shitty ass camera. There's shit like that, bro. You gotta be creative. When people used to follow me, when I first started doing the switch shit, I used to have a bottle of water and squirt myself in the face after every single follow. You just gotta be creative, bro. You gotta do some shit that like nobody's seen before. You have to. Because guess what? If you don't, then people are gonna be like, oh, he's just another blah 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 blah. He's another blah blah blah. You gotta be unique and different and just gotta be like, you gotta just be yourself. You have to. You have to. But just realize this, chat. If you see me on the streets, talk to me, bro. I swear to God, we can take a picture. Don't think I don't like pictures. Talk to me, please. I love talking to you guys, bro. I want to hear where your head's at. A lot of you guys are you're young, and some of you guys are, older, 20s, 30s, whatever it is. That's cool. Just talk to me, bro. I love talk. I love conversations. I really want to spend like 10, 15 minutes just talking to you guys, whatever it is. Like, genuinely talk with you guys. I love it. I love it, bro. That's what makes me the fucking most like. I love this shit, bro. I love you guys, bro. I really love you guys. Oh, crazy. Everyone spent my money, so you're not gonna let me down, bro. For real. I didn't just give you guys that talk, no. I want you guys to actually do your shit. Every day you don't do something, but
Okay. Yeah, it's quite expansive in terms of the pathways and roads that I've taken, as many artists will have. Sometimes they have a specific pathway, which is just education only. But of course, there's going to be like family history and whatnot. But in terms of my history of being an artist and how I got to where I am now, it started off with initially family. So things like, where uncles and aunts and my grandparents actually introduced me to me. Even though in the family they had the potential to do art and design, they never pursued it. They were immigrants, coming from the 1970s and 80s. But it allowed me and my next generation to pursue that as it was introduced to me, because they had interest, but they never really pursued it. So I used to get a lot of drawings and sketches from, my aunts and uncles and grandparents. They would show me things they would have fun with, but at a young age, left a very deep impression, and I wanted to be able to pursue that on my own. So from there, since the age of 5 and all the way till now, as I'm in my 40s, I've been able to sketch and draw and create and produce since then. And then, of course, from education, all the instructors and the support system. So really, at the end of it, it was the people that got me to where I am. Not necessarily systems or books or that kind of thing, but the people around me as family and friends and whatnot.
Yeah. So, did you go to school? For art? Or?
Yeah, so after people, there was so much encouragement, it then led into the conversations and also interest in doing this in an educated format. I actually went to a magnet high school. So after grade school and stuff like that, they knew I really wanted to do art. So they put me in positions to experience art and design at a very young age. So even high school, it was art-centric, so a magnet art high school. So most of the kids that went to high school at that time were interested in dance, music, acting, arts, sculpting, that kind of thing. So that was an opportunity growing up in Portland, Oregon. So I was able to go into that as enrollment, and from high school and on, it was after high school, it was college, 2-year college into graphic design, and art center was after that too, from 2001 to 2004. And it was been a constant about 6 years of just education after high school into developing design skills at a professional level, hopefully in terms of competition. And I think those schools definitely prepare me as well as they could have. But I think a lot of it is also the students' job to be able to try to put themselves in that position of hunger and drive to attain those skill sets. So just because you go to the school doesn't guarantee you anything. But I think because I had the right people from family, but also the friends and networks I met at those schools, I was able to pursue the dream that I wanted to go for. So yeah, education was also very much a big staple to get to where I am now.
So your family were supportive of you doing art then?
Very supportive. So, and coming from the Asian family, of course, the cliche story where you don't get allowed to do that. Yeah, and thankfully I came from a background where the family was very supportive of it. They've expressed concern when I got older, saying we weren't sure what was going to happen, if we were going to make it. But they never showed that to me at a younger age. So everything was always about good, keep it going, and have fun. And they gave me the opportunities to experience like workshops or even stuff like this at Kazone. Back then, and in the early '90s, it was very minimal and sparse in terms of what out there. But they did exist, figure drawing workshops or still life kind of things. It was very kind of more traditional fine art kind of stuff. But still, it allowed me to get out there to experience what it was like in a community of artists to play with these kind of things. But yeah, they allowed me to, and they encouraged it very much so. And that's the weird thing too, because I was the only one that really took advantage of that situation, where I had brothers and sisters. I think they also potentially had even like the slight potentialness of being able to pursue art or any sort of like creative field, but they never really did. They had other interests as well. So oddly enough, I'm the only one that really took it that far.
So, are you the first artist in your family?
In terms of professional, in terms of taking it to this degree of level, yeah, in this generation. There are a few others in the family now who are in the creative field of things like music and otherwise, but and they're taking it pretty far now too. So in my current generation, there's a handful, a few, but in terms of the older, the parents and uncles and aunts, no, there was never any like that degree. So they immigrated from Korea back in like 1977, 78. I was born in '81. So, being the first also male born in the father's side of the family, I was unfortunately spoiled in some cases too. And they allowed me a lot of things I could go for, but thankfully I was able to take advantage of it.
So you went to two-year university prior to art center.
Yeah.
What school was it?
So, back in the 1990s, the Art Institute had just started at the time. I don't think it exists anymore today. And it's not necessarily seen as a good light anymore, but back when it first started, they had a very good intention. And the structure, the instructors, the admins were very hopeful to give me the ideas of how I could pursue education in the future. They knew I wanted to go to art center too. They said, come here, we'll help you establish a lot of your fundamental basis of things, and we'll help you when you walk to art center. They were like that. So they were all in the pursuit of helping individual students to get to the next steps of things. So it was the Art Institute in Portland, and they didn't really have like design, like entertainment kind of stuff. I actually went into the graphic design department. So right after high school, this is 1999, 2000, I went into the two-year program, associate's degree in graphic design. So I spent 2 years there doing that, and we had illustration techniques like figure drawing kind of stuff as well, very minimally. But there was a lot of like layout, graphics, fun, using computers and digital stuff. But there was a wide array of experiences, even like photography and animation if I wanted to, and I got to experience those small things at that school. So I actually really benefited from that. I think if I went from high school to art center, I probably would have sunk, honestly. It probably would have been very hard to survive off of, one, just being very young, and being the fact that I just didn't really know what I really wanted to do, and being introduced to having a moment to kind of mature a little bit, even just a couple of years, I think really helped me establish a better chance of surviving at art center. So today, after now teaching at art center for 10 years and having students from 18 to 19 to 20, and that age coming as a standard average, I can see how much they struggle, and it's unfortunate because it's just one of those cases where all you want them to do is succeed, and it's not to their fault. They try as hard as they can, but I just don't think they had the chance to really mature themselves. Not that they didn't have the potential skill set or technical kind of ability. It's more about being a person at that point. Yeah. Both, yeah.
So how did you prepare your portfolio for art center?
I barely kind of remember what it looks like in a portfolio, but I will say this. Art Center did a lot of outreach programs in different schools and brands. So in Portland, Nike was the big thing out there. So Nike also held college campus kind of days. They would invite colleges from all around the nation, and Art Center would be there to table and to present and talk about the school. So I and a friend of mine from high school would go there to visit these places to find out more about it, and that's how I found more about Art Center, because these college campus kind of days. From there, I never visited Art Center. I just kind of found out more through people that were there. And then I went to the two-year college thing, and then I applied for Art Center through the actual just portfolio standard requirements of what I needed to have. I just did the best that I could. Interpreting that. But well, actually no. I mean, being at that campus day kind of thing, they did give us recommendations like, make sure your portfolio has this and this and this kind of thing. It's very basic, but it still worked. I was able to get into it. No scholarship, but I think out of my entire time when I was at Art Center, I applied for scholarship multiple times, but actually I was denied it. I didn't get scholarships.
I don't believe it.
No,
Really?
I tried so many times. And so, to where I am now in my skills, where I feel very confident in it, I started off in an area where I felt like I was very weak too. Like, I didn't think I was as good as my friends. I didn't necessarily have the advantage of things like scholarships and stuff like that. And I always felt like I was a bit behind in some things, like digital skills or whatever the case is.
Hard to imagine because when I met you, I said you were like already TA.
That was, what, 3 years in maybe at that point?
Maybe.
So yeah, I felt probably a bit better, but in the very beginning, I was like, I didn't know what to do.
So you did progress your skills throughout Arsenal.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I think the progression at Art Center was there because, again, mentors, instructors, that kind of thing. But the right people and the right friendships, which I think every student at Art Center will have that little clique they form in the first day they meet people. And that's really the reason why you go to schools like that. Today, that kind of technique and skill set can be found elsewhere, but you can never still beat out the idea of networking and friendships you'll build when you go there. Not just Art Center, but in schools in general.
So what did you major in Art Center?
So what I majored in at Art Center was mostly was illustration, but I also hybrided it with product design. So when I took illustration, I was there for about 1.5 years, and Norm, my mentor, when I took dynamic sketching the first time, said, you should come into BizCom 4 in the product side of things. He always told me later on, it's like, I always saw you as a product designer. I was like, okay, I guess. So it's the way, I thought, or the way I kind of logically planned things and design. But he always thought that was the thing that I wanted to do, or thought I should do. So he invited me into the BizCom 4 version. So then I got introduced to the world of design of products. Because in Art Center, you kind of are contained in a bubble. You know, you go to the department, and you stay there, you find your friends, and maybe you find a couple other people in different departments, but you don't really experience those different areas unless you try to actually cross that tape and take those classes. So I did. In my fourth term, I took BizCom Core. And so BizCom classes, visual communication, in product design is set up to 6 different BizComs. So it's like basis of perspective, still life drawing, dynamic sketching, which is a standard curriculum in the program. Where illustration, dynamic sketching is an elective. You can just choose to take it. So after I took it the first time, he said, come into it. But that experience opened up my eyes about what true design process really is. How to research, how to present. With illustration students, we don't really do very well. So it's a hybrid, I think, because there's definitely elements majority-wise illustration, but definitely a lot of elements of also product too.
And after that, you went on entertainment.
Yeah, so in Art Center, I went into entertainment after first establishing the illustration side of the fundamentals, the basic figure drawing kind of things, composition, value, color painting. And then, you're given the options of taking additional classes that can be more curated to specifically what you do in the industry. We didn't have the labels. We didn't have the whole entertainment track or subsets. We just took classes that basically gave us that push towards that direction. So we had to find them by word of mouth. Back then, 15, 20 plus years ago, those classes were all based on someone took it and said, oh, that was great information. Hey, here's what we did. And then we took it because someone told us. So I only took dynamic sketching because a friend told me to. Say, hey, this is right up your alley. If she didn't tell me, I would have maybe never taken it. So we had to really rely upon each other to give us information on where to go. Today, it's all built curriculums. You know what classes to take. They tell you where to go. But back then, it was all kind of a shot in the dark. Yeah.
So did you get a job for Art Center then?
No.
Did you get your first job?
So how I got my first job was luck and timing. And it's kind of unfortunate to hear that sometimes as a student. You think, well, so then it's just luck then? Not necessarily. I'm saying there's an aspect of what we do in our world where you have to be in the right spot at the right time, and hopefully it's on your side. But to make it successful, to have a higher percentage of it to work, you got to actively put yourself out there. You got to actively work really hard. You got to hustle constantly. If you sit there and twiddle your thumbs, then nothing will happen. Luck is against you. But if you're super active in putting yourself out there, then the chance is much higher. The crossing of that path I talked about in some of the classes. So after I graduated, I applied for a bunch of jobs. And today, what I tell my students is that if there's a group of people in there, 80% of you may not get what you want. You graduate, what happens if you don't get that job? Everyone has dreams of like, well, I want to work at like Disney or these kind of game studios. And I had dreamed to work at Pixar. I wanted to go to Pixar actually after I graduated. I had all the right contacts. My portfolio was built for it, and Norm knew everybody there. He knew Rob Kondo and Harvey Jessup, and I talked to those people. Graduated, tried to submit for it, nothing. Pretty much right after night. It's like, sorry, it's just not good enough. And so I thought, man, I thought I was prepared. I thought I was ready. But so I've learned this idea of rejection constantly too. And scholarships didn't work out so well. Certain relationships with people I try to build, but wouldn't really follow through. And even professionally, it didn't start off very smoothly. I didn't work for 6 months after art training. So I had friends who were graduating, like, oh, they got a job right after graduation. I was in that category of 80% of people who did not work. So that's why I tell people and students today, you are in that general category now that you would not get the job you want. There's a small percentage, and that's what you're seeing. Oh, they went to that studio, they went to that studio, that's what I want. Of course we do, everybody wants it. But that's such a small percentage. The majority are sitting there trying to find out where to go. So we all have the same dreams. So I didn't get that. So Pixar was kind of like gone now, and then I was trying to apply for different studios here and there in LA. Nothing was happening. So I sat there like, what do I do next? And I went back to art center. I went and sat in on classes with Norm and sketching and drawing because I wasn't working. So I was still producing like content and portfolio stuff, updating my work all the time. So I was actively putting myself out there. But I had nothing else to do because classes were done. And the weirdest feeling is, of course, I'm sure you know, when you finish art center, all of a sudden you have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
And it's very weird and jarring, you know. So I sat there producing more work, and I said, I'm gonna just go back to art center. I kind of miss it because all my friends were still there. I graduated a term earlier than everybody. So I went to art center in 3.5 years.
Did you take any break?
I took one break, and I went to PCC and took more classes there. And everything else was straight through. So I finished art center very fast. So I graduated, you know, with a couple friends here and there, but the majority of my friends were still at art center. So I actually went back and spent another like months of term just sitting in classes because the teachers would let me in. And then by chance, there was a company that contacted me saying, hey, are you available for work? And we saw your stuff on a Blogspot. I had a Blogspot. Well, I didn't even have a website. I had a Blogspot. So they saw my sketches and drawings. And they said, you know, you seem to draw tanks really well. Like, we have a project that's all about tank, you know, designs. You want to work on it? I don't know how they found me. It was just based on like word of mouth maybe. They saw somebody showing my stuff to them. I didn't apply for the job. They came to me. So again, there was a high chance where they wouldn't have seen it through some other means, but thankfully they did. And so that was my first working opportunity in freelance 6 months after graduation. And I went in-house to work for about 3 or 4 months, and then they hired me full-time.
What company was it?
Technicolor in Burbank. So Technicolor is known for their music and sound and all that kind of stuff in movies, but they had a game division, so they're an outsourcing company now. So I worked in the concept department for about 2.5 years until they let me go. So, yeah, my first job was 2.5 years, and it was a freelance gig at first, then it became a full-time job after that. And it wasn't the highest paying, but I had to take what I could, you know, at that point. I figured games would be a certain opportunity, but it wasn't my first intention. Again, animation is really what I would go to. But at this point, after then going in games, after 7 years, I never worked in animation until after I finished all that up. And then eventually I did some stuff in animation. But that's the thing, is like, you may not get what you want now, but if you work at it, maybe you'll get that opportunity later. So what you have to do is find a way to adapt and, you know, use your skill sets to find some sort of opportunity to get you going. Thankfully, there was luck and timing on my side, but I was also active on constantly pumping out work and putting it there. So it's a combination of all those elements. For some people, like I said, they'll get it right away, but it wasn't for me.
So after Burbank, I remember you living in San Diego.
Yeah,
For a job.
Yeah, it was for a job. So after I got laid off from Technicolor, because they had a lack of work, that's the nature of the way the industry is.
Especially awesome.
For sure. And as a young person, as an amateur or junior concept artist, you know, it's scary finding a first job, but it was like terrifying losing it. And I'm like, what do I do? So, because the thing is, after I left Technicolor, I actually didn't really have anything to show. Because 2.5 years afterwards, all that work from Art Center, I got rid of. It's not really valid anymore. But the 2.5 years of working at the company, actually, I wasn't really fully satisfied with the work. What happens for a lot of people, but also happened to me, again, I had these unfortunate, I guess, elements of kind of falling into that trap, but I got comfortable very fast. You think you work really hard and build discipline at Art Center. You're gonna be super on point, on edge. You came home, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna rest, watch movies, play games, kind of stuff. And at work, I do 9 to 5, come home, do nothing. So I didn't really push anything on myself. I got comfortable very quickly. So I did my work, and I did the work to just finish it. I wasn't super into it. And there was only one project that I liked from the entire 2 years of being there. It was the first project that I worked on, the tank. Everything else was kind of like, whatever. So after I got laid off, I had nothing to show for it. No work. So I had to spend 5 months rebuilding an entire portfolio. And so I applied for jobs all over the US, and I landed in San Diego. So I moved for the work. So yeah, I was there for a number of years in multiple different studios in San Diego, which eventually I then left the industry overall.
So what company was the next one after?
Technicolor was the first in Burbank, then I went to a place called Bottle Rocket Studios. And that was, yeah, Bottle Rocket. So we were working on a game called Splatterhouse. It was a remake of an old, like, side-scroller game, horror film. Well, I met some really good people. I really enjoyed it. I was only there for 10 months, and then got laid off. This is what I started to learn about the industry. It's a merry-go-round. You're constantly on and off, on and off. And in San Diego specifically, it's such a contained environment also too. So those individuals are constantly rotating through studios. There's only a handful. So Bottle Rocket, where I went to initially, they mismanaged that project kind of poorly. So they ended up laying off tons of people. So from there, I got hired on immediately because I knew a friend. I don't know if you ever knew him, Ari Bilo. And Ari was an art director over at Tryon Studios in San Diego also. They were making a large MMORPG sci-fi. And so I applied for that job because I knew Ari, the art director, and I had the same portfolio that I had made from before. So I showed that stuff, and I had stuff from Splatterhouse, the game, and they took me on. So I transitioned from, being laid off on that week, and then the weekend after I started that job at Tryon. And I was there for about 3.5 years.
Oh, wow, that's long.
It was longer. So I started very early in production, which is, I think, is kind of rare in the industry. Typically, you walk in, you're looking at something that's been worked on for about a year. For me, I came in very early to the point where it was all kind of blue skies there. So it is a fun stage. So there's a lot of overall process of trying to develop a look, and so I was from the very beginning helping establishing that, which is why I was there for so long. But eventually, I also left that place and went to Sony in San Diego. So there were definitely several studios I was trying to hit, and Sony in San Diego was one of them. They were also doing outsourcing, basically, cinematics. So I worked on that for a couple of different titles at Sony as well. The art director there was a good friend of mine from Bottle Rocket days. So what you start to realize then is you pick up on not just the fact that it's a short run and merry-go-round, but it's all about them who you know at that point. And yes, it does matter in the very beginning when you're a student too, but you start to really build those connections, rely upon them more as you get older, as you go along. But yeah, that was my stint in San Diego at that point.
So, how did you get to teaching? Did you always wanted to teach?
No, I didn't think I would be teaching if at all, but I think what I will say is this. I've told this story many times about, Norm, mentor, he passed away in 2010. It fell on my lap from there. But what I will say is that I think I was groomed for it without me even realizing it. So Norm, my mentor, who I met at Art Center, we became good friends. Obviously he's handled many students and generations, not just me, of course, and a lot of other students who made very good successes in themselves. And we became close and very much family-like. I got to know him, his kids, his family. So I spent a lot of time with him at time of school. And after he had passed is when Art Center came to me saying, hey, would you take over for what he's doing? But at the time when he was alive, he would bring me in for a lot of these chances to teach with me. So not just at Art Center, we would do things like high school visits. Oh yeah, so we go to local schools in California and we just do workshops together, doing dynamic sketching stuff. Young kids, some kids were first grade, second grade, to high school as well too. So I helped them along in communicating, and he would ask me to also demo and speak to do it. As I would also walk around doing feedback. It started off first as TA work at Art Center, but then it was about incorporating me to his actual stuff he does outside of it. We had even, before he passed away in 2010, in 2009 we had talked about going to Korea. Because he had a contact in a university in Seoul, and they had come over to Art Center to see what they were doing, and he was good friends with them. We were supposed to go together to do a workshop in 2009, but then the avian flu hit. The H1N1, the bird flu.
Yeah.
So that closed all the borders. And so they can cancel the workshop. And so when that canceled, then of course in March is when he passed away. But since then, I had asked Norm, do you mind if I teach a class? Because CDA had asked me to come over to teach a class. Word of mouth. Rodney Fuentabella, who was a friend from Art Center, was teaching at CDA. And Kevin Chen was asking, do you know anybody who can teach a class in sketching? So Rodney said, go to Peter. Because he knew Norm, he knows his process. So they asked me. And I asked Norm, do you mind if I take the sketching and teach it at CDA? Because at that time, dynamic sketching was only available to him at Art Center, nowhere else. So he said, of course, we'll teach it. Because we had also talked about, I would like for you to come to Art Center and teach. You can teach dynamic sketching. I want to do an advanced version. We had these conversations back in 2008, 2009. So he always, I think, saw me as wanting to be a part of instruction and teaching. So I think he was grooming me for it. But I didn't realize this. I wasn't aware.
I always would think that you always would want to or imagine to be an instructor because you're so good at it.
Well, that's the thing, is when I tell my parents this, they're always shocked by it. Because if you know me who I am really, in terms of just being naturally around me, you know that when I'm on the spot and I gotta work, I'm very good at being on. But naturally, I'm more just kind of quiet and reserved, and I don't really speak if I don't need to, you know. So my parents are always kind of surprised, like, we're always surprised that you're a teacher. Like, how do you sit there and talk when you didn't really talk when you were younger, you know? So they're always kind of surprised by it. In actuality, I was always very scared of presenting. I didn't like speaking in front of publics. Oh, I remember in like high school, I would do presentations and stuff. I'd be shaking like a leaf. And it was nerve-wracking. But again, it was a very slow progress. And teaching-wise, it took a minute to get more comfortable.
Meantime, but so I mean, so the other thing is I had a certain amount of tenacity and a certain amount of willingness to get 200 rejections for my book, and just keep rolling and say, oh, I'll turn it into a screenplay, maybe that'll sell. Okay, a certain amount of these, you just have to remain optimistic and upbeat, because you are going to have a lot of failure. But that's what I'm saying. One of the things you have to teach people is you're going to lose, and your super skill may be something you don't discover for a long time. In other words, we have our talents and our skills that we know we have.
Yeah.
Then there's the hidden stuff. Like, you have hidden superpower. You know what I mean? Your hidden superpowers, sometimes they're like, you're dealing with yourself, right? So I mean, you don't know what your superpower is, right? You know what you can do effortlessly and rely on yourself to get up and do every day. What I didn't know is that what underpinned me in all the game stuff, and why Gary wanted to work with me, and the game stuff went well, is my secret power is math. Okay, that I didn't see. We knew it was there, right? Okay, I knew it from the SATs. I knew that I always did math. I always knew I was a really good gamer. But on paper, I was flunking out of algebra in high school. If the algebra teacher had bothered to see what I was doing after school, and I'm playing Panzerblitz, trying to figure out that I have an elite tank column that's crossing a river with terrain effects, and with air cover and against an entrenched, SS, elite SS division, who'd been degraded, through air power. And was able to do in my head the algebra there and figure out what that die roll odds were going to be and whether I was willing to take that chance, because this attack was really a feint that I was drawing his stuff off because I was trying to go down left. If that same math teacher that was failing him in algebra knew that I was doing that after school, there probably would have been a different math outcome. But they didn't. I had no idea what algebra was. I did know how to put two opposite, incredibly complex equations on opposite sides of a combat matrix, and know pretty much what I wanted to do, and it was almost intuitive. Well, I didn't know that. I mean, I didn't know why am I able to just effortlessly do certain things in games and all that. Well, that's because you have that power. You know what I mean? You'll discover stuff in yourself you didn't know you had. When I'm writing talking mouse movies, okay, I watched no more cartoons than anybody else that was a kid. I see Roadrunner and Coyote and all that. I have no idea where that skill came from, other than it just probably got grafted from my grandmother, who used to tell me bedtime stories. And the way her brain worked, it was this free association, but it was one massive Rube Goldberg puzzle, and that's what a cartoon is. I mean, like everybody else that ever told me a bedtime story, just, told me, some story everybody knew, and, we'd have alt endings, or I'd ask about stuff, or I demand more, or whatever. But she would just go in. It started out with Mrs. O'Leary, who we lived in Chicago, so it was the Chicago fire, a cow kicked over a lantern, Mrs. O'Leary's cow. Started out with that, and you would end up on the moon, and through these things, and she effortlessly composed this stuff. And now, did I figure that out because it was genetic in me that I was doing it, or did she train me how to do it when she was telling me bedtime stories? I don't know, but somehow 30 years later, or 25 years later, I'm able to write cartoons. Where'd that skill come from? That's what I'm saying. If you're any kind of an artist, I mean, this isn't about me, this is about any of your artists. If you're any kind of an artist, you're going to find stuff you didn't know was there, but you don't find it if you don't keep doing it. And that's the Picasso argument, is you must keep producing stuff. Lucky stuff will not happen to you if you don't work. So on one hand, when we're saying, when I'm looking at as this nonlinear guy, just like, anyway, let's go. Well, yeah, at a certain point, if you look at the diagram underneath it, yes, I did go to film school. Yes, I did go get an agent. Yes, I did all this stuff. The point of what I'm saying is, okay, you have a strategy. You have some idea where you want to end up. And it may be just a fantastical vision, and you think about it, but just walk yourself through the decades, okay? You know, and then you have, you drift around, you try different stuff, and just do everything you can, and you find out, oh, I'm kind of good at this. You find out you have skills you didn't know you have. You also have interests you didn't know you have. Also, the world changes and whole industries come into being that didn't exist before, or they morph into something. I mean, you know, because I was designing board games because you couldn't tell stories on, you know, in computer games until, you know, really late on. But when computer games came along and you had, you know, CD-ROMs and you could actually, you know, tell stories on them, well, that changed everything. You know what I mean? But then the screenwriting skill I developed, you know, then paid off in the game skill. And that's what I'm saying. You just have to keep doing stuff, keep trying stuff. Know you're going to fail. Yeah, I mean, it's like, and that, you know, that's what I'm saying. That's what you have to bring a little sports into arts. You realize if you got in base one time in 3 in baseball, you go to the Hall of Fame. Okay, well, what about those other 2 times you didn't get on base, or those 9 times when you're going through a slump? People have to expect they're going to be in slumps. I don't know anybody that, I mean, I go in slumps all the time. It's just how you deal with them. And that's what I'm saying about strategy.
That's encouraging. That reminds the importance of process, the importance of openness, and the importance of persistence.
Yeah.
This has been a theme that has come up over and over, that if a person waits it out and continues being ready, they will get their opportunity.
Well, that was the inspirational stuff that John Milius said after Tony Bill had been in telling us none of us were going to make it. Milius said, there's one attribute you have to have. It's great to have talent and all that, but you have to have tenacity.
Yeah.
You have to just stay in there. And that is 100% true. Because I don't care if you have your big break, 10 minutes, you know, that you have some student that does their first painting and the Louvre calls them up and, you know, and they're doing openings. Okay, you know, an opening just with their material. You better know what your move's going to be after you bomb. And how do you get up and how do you dust yourself off and what's the next thing? And you better be doing 3 projects at the same time. One project, at least one project is an actual paying project. Okay, that, you know, is something you're doing with, you know, a boss. That's who you want to go to, and somebody who, you know, is judgmental and critical and collaborative and all that good stuff. You want to be doing one project that's just, you know, your long bomb project, which if it succeeds, it fundamentally changes your life, but it'll probably fail. And then you probably want to be doing other ones that are just little things you're doing because you're helping a friend of yours, or it's some project you just, you know, you're not going to feel right about the world until you just scratch that itch or whatever. You know, or, you know, but, you know, a lot of times it's like a little paying project, but that's where you pick up skills. That's grinding. So you're grinding, you're scrimmaging, and you're, you know, aspiring and pushing yourself all at the same time. But you have to do all those 3 things at any period of your life. You have at least 3 projects on.
Okay, I want to get that. The grind is for money. What's the scrimmage for? I'm sorry, I don't know sports terms well enough.
A grind is you're just practicing your penciling technique. You're practicing your line drawing. You're practicing your painting technique, and it in itself doesn't get you anything. It just means when you do the real thing, you're going to be better at it.
Okay.
You know, if I'm doing style studies when I'm writing, and I'm saying, okay, I want to write this like Hemingway, and so I read a bunch of Hemingway, and I try to Hemingwayify just random stuff I'm doing. I'm just trying to learn another voice.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But I'm not actually going to sell that to anybody. That's just practice.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's developing a skill that will pay off later on.
Okay.
You know, when I'm saying, you know, my screenwriting format sucks. You know, how do I like just buff my format? You know, I don't like reading my format, right?
Okay, move on to scrimmage. Scrimmage is an actual project then.
Well, a scrimmage is just that. That to me is school. There's no real stakes. It doesn't go in the record book or anything. But you are really competing over something, and there really is an outcome.
Okay.
Okay, and what was the third thing? Was it, you said aspire?
Well, the third thing is you go just do. You work on and put time into the outrageous thing you think you really want to be doing. Notice the key word here is think.
Oh, that's the long bomb.
Yeah, it's a long bomb. Okay, when I wrote a novel right out of college, okay, I didn't take a novel writing course. I did later. I didn't take any novel writing courses. I didn't know whether I could write a novel. And everybody says, well, write a short story first. Well, I didn't. I wanted to write a novel. And you just go do that, knowing there's an extremely high chance of failure. If you succeed, it's huge. Now, I'm not sure.
On top of that,
sure my life would be better now if I'd actually sold my first novel, but at the time it sure seemed like it. Okay? And, you know, it was depressing, but what it did, even though it was a fail from the point of view I didn't sell it, nobody ever read it, my son, you know, read it and has been mocking me ever since, it doesn't matter. It convinced me I actually could do that. I never later on was intimidated by a large piece of work,
Okay.
even though it was a fail.
Okay. I've got one more question about this. These three categories you've got. One of them, and it doesn't make any difference which one. One of them should pay money, whether you're making your money by doing a grind, whether you're making
Yes.
your money by doing a scrimmage, or whether you're making your money because somebody is fronting you the money to do something really big. The idea is that a couple of these don't need to make money, so that there's less stakes. There's fewer stakes in it. Is that correct?
Well, and there are two kinds of not making money. There's not making money because I'm practicing my craft and I don't expect to be paid for that. You know, you ever heard of like a guitar player running through scales? Okay, nobody's going to purchase that. It sounds ugly. However, that makes their fingers faster, so when they want to do something that people may actually want to listen to, they can accomplish it. Right? It's practice. It's drills. It's, you know, it's going to the gym one more time. Okay, you got to go to the gym a lot of times before, you know, you're really going to be able to compete anywhere. You know, and that's I'm trying to mix some metaphors for whatever people get. You know, you're gonna be losing a lot in any game you play. If you're not getting killed a lot, you're probably playing the games too easy for you. Try a different difficulty level, because you're not going to advance if it's not hard. If it's too hard, you're not going to want to play it. So you try to tune it to what you are, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's why you ramp the games up. But you want, and the other thing too is you don't want to, and this is my problem, is I don't want to vapor lock on one project. That's when bad stuff happens. And so if you have at least one other thing that you're doing, that you're directing this project, right?
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? You know, this is your project. You own it. Nobody can tell you what to do. It's just yours.
And that's the long bomb.
Now, that's the big one that can bomb.
That's the long bomb, usually.
Okay.
Yeah. Or, alternately, if you're doing a really high-profile, high-prestige, monstrous project in the real world, then you may want to figure out, well, what's the little thing for me to do? Like right now, I'm doing arguably the most ambitious project I've ever done in my life, professionally for a real company. It's huge, and it's a perfect team. It's like a perfect challenging project. Does nothing but challenge me every day. However, on Saturday, I'm doing a second play test of a role-playing game I designed for no particular reason during COVID, but I found players who like to play it, and it's something that's been sort of on my back since the 90s. And I cleaned out all my storage, and I found this document. I said, I got to finish this thing. There's just some itch to finish it. Do I see any path to that being a $1 billion project? No, but it could. And the good indication I'm getting is people keep showing up at our play test and wanting to do it more. That's great, because
And that's your scrimmage.
Yeah, that's my scrimmage. Yeah, it's just my little. My little heart project. That's another way you can look at it. But the scrimmage part of it is that I'm actually exposing it to other people, and they're actually coming and playing. If nobody would come back and they're saying, oh, that's just real good. No, sorry, I can't make it on Saturday. I might know the thing's really a turd and they're being nice to me. Okay? But it's just some little thing I'm doing with no real expectation attached to it. It's just fun. I mean, if you're not having fun doing your stuff, I mean, you got to find out what you have fun with. I have fun doing a role-playing game, and projects like that usually end up with your Robin Hood, team that works with you on it. People start drawing stuff. People start, helping you with tables. People come and play tests. People write fiction based on the world, stuff like that. That's cool. And that's the modern world. That's what I'm saying. That's just a network. Sometimes projects just build their own network, and you got this whole conga line of people that kind of come with you on the project. That's fun. If I'm wrapping it up, what I would say is this. I mean, if there were 10 easy steps to having a successful career, we'd all be doing that, and I'd be writing that book. And
why don't you?
Well, I mean, that memoir I wrote about the '80s is a great book for somebody just sitting in film school or getting out of undergraduate, and it's the story of what happened to me. Now, everything that happened to me was just unique in funny ways because but nevertheless, everybody's story is unique. I mean, if it goes on to be good, it's unique. Even when it goes to be bad, it's unique. And so they sound like improbable stories, but you stick around long enough and you do enough stuff, and that stuff will start happening to you. And what I'm saying is that at a grand strategic level, okay, I'll go to military for this. We won't go to sports, but you'll get this. Okay, grand strategic is the massive decisions of your life that affect your whole life. Okay? And you can't know where you're going to end up. You can't even know what the world's going to be like. 2 years ago, we didn't think we'd be coming out of being locked down for a year, right?
Yeah.
But you can have a grand strategic vision of saying, this is approximately what I want my life to feel like. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. At least do the thought experiment. Okay? And what that tends to dictate is very practical policies for your life. Like, for instance, I knew it would be an extremely bad idea for me to get married, much less have children, until, I felt stable in my career.
Yeah.
I was married when I was 38 years old. That was a decision to make. Because I saw that people who got married, at young ages found themselves needing money, getting distracted, not being able to be, fanatical about what you're doing, and you have to be a fanatic in certain parts of your career. Some people made it work. Some people, their wife was their partner and it worked. That was not going to be my plan. Okay? Yeah, and I was not going to marry a wife who was like my work partner. I mean, I just sort of knew that. Those are grand strategic decisions. Okay? I also knew that you've got to be smart about money. What ends your career when you have to start doing work you shouldn't be doing because you got to pay the bills? I'm not saying that's never happened to me, okay? But I was dealt a fairly good hand, with money, okay? That was just it. But there were certain decisions that I made along the way. I'm still in the same house I bought in 1985. And it's worked out really well, and it's been, fixed and modified and buffed, 100 times since then. But nevertheless, I didn't get involved in that game, and I didn't want to run up a bunch of bills and obligations that I couldn't meet. I'm financially unbelievably boring because when your whole career is a big risk, you don't need to pile some other risk on top of it. So that's just math. You just have to say, if you are going to take a big risk in one area of your life, I suggest not taking them in other areas of your life. Okay, that's just my opinion. But I mean, I think I could put that on combat results table and be pretty much borne out.
Choose your risks.
You choose your risks. So that's at a grand strategic level. Some people just get that when they buy a package. They just have morality, or they have, whatever. You get that and don't even have to think about it. You're just doing, when you think about it, things like morality and manners and things like that are just algorithms for social intelligence and long-term intelligence. They also are nice if you just have them. But that's, manners just, how many problems do you not get into if you just have good manners? And you just don't do crappy stuff. And you, in fact, do good things, and you write thank you notes, and you do stuff like that. That pays off, and you don't even know it. But once again, if that's a habit, you don't even know you're doing it. And I'm not saying I'm by far not the poster child for that, but I understand, that unless you're a 1 in a million outlier with shockingly great social skills, it's pretty good just to stick to normal protocol unless there's a good reason not to. That's a strategic decision you make in life, or a grand strategic decision. Strategic decisions are more like, okay, am I going to buy an expensive house? No. Am I gonna, do I really need that Aston Martin this week, even though, I got a good check? No, I don't think so. I think that I know where they're going to be rainy days, and we'll save for the, you know what I mean? Am I going to become a heroin addict? No, that might not be a good idea. It's expensive, it's distracting, I'm not going to do that. However, You know, you look at like, you know, Keith Richards, it worked for him, though it didn't.
Eric Clapton got his skills up.
Is that ever a strategic decision? Like, should I become a heroin addict now? Let me see. Yeah, no, I'll do it later.
You know, then there become tactical and operational decisions underneath that. Okay, you know, that's the way military stuff is. It goes grand, strategic, tactical, and operational, then tactical. You know, there are different flavors in between. But it's a way to think about life, you know, because when you're planning huge campaigns, which would be your career, military is not a bad place to look at because that's kind of what they have to do.
Okay.
You know, and then where we're talking about the tactical stuff is the grinding. It's the day in, day out of what you do. And the more you do it, and the more frequently and the more predictably you do it, the more it will get to be a habit. And then you don't have to think about it. Because the great thing about a habit is it's just there. You clean off your RAM. You don't have to, you know, that's just a subroutine that's invisibly running in your life. That's why you want to make good habits.
The tactical stuff is the grind. Is there an analogy for the operational stuff? I don't really know the difference between tactical and operational.
Oh, yeah, and the real, tactical stuff, that's where, like, the soldiers actually out there, you know, they're actually fighting. Operational is beans, Band-Aids, and bullets. Operational is where's your money coming from, where are your essential systems coming from, where are you going to be living, what kind of car are you driving, how are you paying for the gas, what kind of gas you putting in your car, what kind of, you know, it's just the flat-out, you know, tactical realities of your life, because you can have this, you know, and it's also who's your agent going to be. You know, to some extent, what's your network? You got a lawyer. You know, the stuff that you know, when you need it, you really need it, and you do need it, and you have to get it. That's operational.
Right.
It's just practical stuff.
Yeah.
That's very good. Thank you. That's helpful. I
Makes sense.
have heard those terms used, but only had a vague idea of them.
Yeah.
Flint, it was great this was great to be a student, and my mind has been racing. It's also been nice to not be the teacher. I have written down so much, and it's been a workout to find form in it, but that's what I'm going to do later, is to take the chaos of all of this and take an hour and a half to find the form in it, to satisfy my own love of convergence. But this was a bucket, this was several buckets worth of gemstones.
All right, one last thing, okay? Exactly. Okay.
Of course.
I'm totally nonlinear. So I have to figure out ways to compensate for it. Like, I can usually answer a question if you ask me, like you ask me what operational means, I can give you a pretty good answer to it, right? Okay. You know, I mean, you sort of got what I meant by it, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay. The thing I do, now different brains have to do different things, but the thing I do is I have an endless set of templates. Okay? And templates are usually really formulaic. If it's a story, plot, character, style, theme, melody, message, and delivery. If it's a character bio, it's like 50 questions about that character. If it's a if it's a game, it's like different aspects, like the compulsion loop, phase, introduction, what's leveling, all that. Then templates are nets, and when you have chaotic ideas flying around, then you go into fisherman mode and you make nets.
Yeah.
And you put them in there. And the thing I do most effortlessly is make templates.
Systems.
Yeah.
Or alternately, flowchart.
You generate a lot of fish too.
Yeah.
I generate a lot of fish, but you only catch them just by building a net. Because there's no point in generating a fish if, you don't catch it.
That's an interesting analogy. That's nice.
You see, it's a net to catch this stuff. Because some people have one idea, and they don't need any of that. But if it's a really good idea, they don't need the second idea.
Yeah.
You can go a whole career with one idea, and you do it really well, right?
Well, don't you have to have ideas within the idea to make it all work? And you don't just have one idea, and then it's boom, your life is built around it.
I suppose, but I mean, there's one guy I worked with who, he was really into dinosaurs. He had 1,500 dinosaurs in his house.
Wow.
He wrote all the dinosaur episodes of Transformers. He wrote a bunch of other dinosaurs. He was extremely talented stuff, and guy, and he did a lot of stuff other than that. But the point is, whenever you wanted a dinosaur thing, you went to him. And there's enough dinosaur desire out there in the universe. He's always got something to do.
Great.
And you can have that career. And I mean, because that's a person that is at a, he's still alive, so he's not at endgame yet, but he's still made it a long time. And that's what I'm saying. You just have to know who you are.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of chaotic ideas that I have to net, but I have to figure out how do you turn that into making a living.
Yeah, so I guess you could formulate your life around one single project that you just like keep expanding, and it's just like the biggest project. Is dinosaurs is the project. But yeah, I guess most artists don't do that. Most artists are either freelancers or they work for some company and they have projects that last a certain amount of time and they'll move from project to project.
Which is why I suggest that while they're doing that, they have their own project they're working on.
Yeah.
That's a strategy that doesn't care about what arbitrary thing they're getting hired to do. Because I mean, a lot of my work is working on famous franchises, and the project just comes up, and it's like, oh, I'm doing Batman, okay, and fortunately, a gift I've had that's worked for me a lot of times is I can get almost interested in almost anything for long enough to do a project.
Flint diversifies.
Well, I mean, but the phone rings and then hey, you want to do Spank Man? I guess. Hey, Spank Lord sounds real good to me this week. Maybe there's something Spank Lord's can be good. Okay, I'll do Spank Lord. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But usually I can get into it enough that we can see whether Spank Lords is going to work or not, because just often enough it works. What anybody can do is we all have enough free time in our lives. You can have your own project that's just yours that nobody can take away, no licensor, nobody goes out of business and you can't do your project anymore, and all that. Once again, and the operational practical thing is make sure the legalities of it and nobody steals it from you.
Thank you, Flint.
Yeah, thank you.
If you want 12 sessions of lessons from Bridgman and other great artists, starting September 24th, drawing lessons on Fridays. Feedback for some, lessons for all, $5 a session. Go to martialart.com.
What a waste of time it is to try to make something better that isn't going to get better when you can tear it down and build it up again. It's a principle of the universe.
Charlie, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm recording live, and I'm almost 23 minutes into the 4K recording, and Stan has had technical troubles with Zoom, so he's had to start over, which means that technically we're failing here. But I wanted to record a conversation with me calling you for consolation, because here's the thing. Our episode is called Failing. And it's also called Failing Well, and it includes starting over on a project. So, this is a good thing, right?
Yeah, failing well. Something we're well acquainted with in Drasman.
Later.
Hi, Stan.
Hi, Marshall. That took forever. Sorry, I do this almost every day now, and then the camera just decided not to connect to the computer. So.
Well, it only took
30 minutes.
What was it? Almost 40 minutes, but it's
what?
okay.
Oh my God, it was 40 minutes. Jesus, that's just
I had a good time, actually.
Man.
I called Charlie, and I sought counsel from Charlie, and Charlie simply said that there was nothing he could do. He's in another city.
He has no idea what's happening here. You're like, the camera's not connecting. What does that mean?
He let me know, but it didn't mean we didn't have a good conversation.
Okay, yeah.
Did you see the Strengths episode so far for editing?
Is this one that we recorded? I don't remember.
Yeah, it's one that we recorded about 2 months ago.
Okay.
Month and a half or so.
I have not seen it.
And there was a reason that I brought it up. What was the reason I brought it? Oh, that was an episode where your energy was manic right from the beginning. I mean, from the minute it's like, okay, and we're gonna go, and I picked it up.
Should I do that again?
Yeah, it was exciting.
Marshall, let's fail. Let's
Hey,
talk about failure.
We have done it. We have failed at this podcast, and now we get a second, third, fourth, fifth, 70-second chance.
All right. I'm excited.
How are things in your life? I haven't talked to you.
They're good. They're good. So we're recording this on June 10th.
Yeah.
Which means it's been about 3 weeks since we launched Proco 2.0, which is up on Proco.com right now. If you guys haven't heard of it. But yeah, I think we're done with the hard part. You know, like those first 3 weeks were really challenging.
Because of technical things?
No, just getting into the groove of publishing something every day and having a live stream like every other day and like new courses left and right. Just organizational challenges, like trying to get that. Like our team has never done that before.
Well, there was not a single day, hardly an hour, that I was not thinking about it and aware that if I called you or John or Charlie or Sean or anyone else, like, let's not bother them right now. They are at war. They are in the storm right now, so let's wait till they have a chance to breathe.
And we're not out of it yet. We're just used to being in it. I mean, we got events every day, sometimes 2 events per day, all the way through the end of June. So yeah, we're still in it, but yeah, we're kind of used to it now, and we're good. We're good.
Okay. Well, our topic today. Now, how did you title this?
How to fail.
How to fail, which has been a theme that you brought up a number of times. That failing is not as bad as people think it is. It's essential for growth, and we need to learn to fail well.
Yeah, and also, the title may be a little bit misleading. It's kind of a hook.
Yeah, it is.
What we kind of mean by how to fail is that sometimes you'll have goals. We're probably talking more about long-term goals here specifically. And then things change. Because these are long-term goals. Things are going to change in the long term. And when you adapt, in a way, you are failing at your initial goal, right?
Yes.
But correctly adapting to the environment and to things changing isn't really failure if you do it well. And so how to fail means how do you fail at some things in order to succeed at other things, other more important or other things that you would rather prefer to succeed at. That's kind of what I mean, and that's what I think we're gonna talk about today.
It sounds like a basic principle of life. But the word fail is so associated with pain that I can imagine a person looking at the Draftsman podcast title for the day and saying, fail, I don't want to fail, I don't want to fail, and then I'm not going to listen to this podcast.
To fail.
But those of you who got past that, you got past barrier 1.
Yeah.
Good show.
Well, the fact that it's painful to fail, I think, is one reason why it's important to understand how to fail, because we will avoid it. Sometimes we're going to avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like, sometimes we'll just keep going down a path that we set out for ourselves to succeed at it, when it's obvious that we should no longer be on this path anymore, and we need to shift a little bit. You know, when we set long-term goals, we're walking into a really, really long forest, and we have no idea what we're going to come across in our journey. And so we have to go into it with a mindset of, I want to get there, but I'm okay with the fact that I'm going into this, like, this amazing world that I have no idea what's in it, and I'm going to be open-minded about it.
It's a great principle. Okay, I'm glad you brought it up. So, but it implies that if we fail on things that are not just a 1 minute or 10-minute thing, we fail on something that might be a several days or a several years thing.
Yeah.
Most of the time, starting over seems hard, and the feelings of failure can dominate and contaminate the experience. So do you have an outline of stuff you want to talk about?
Yes, kind of, but it's very loose.
Okay. Do you want to just start, or you want me to start you with a question?
Start with a question. I'm curious what your question is.
What are your biggest failings that you took on again and succeeded?
Took on again? What do you mean by that?
I mean that you failed at that, but you said, that's not going to stop me. I'm going to keep at it, and then, come out on the other side successful.
Okay, so when I started, I wanted to be an artist. Right? Well, actually, first of all, rewind even more. I wanted to be an animator specifically. I set out to work for Pixar. Wow, that's interesting. I'm wearing a Pixar. I did not plan that. Yeah, no, I'm wearing a Pixar shirt right now. I wanted to work for Pixar as an animator. But then along the way, I learned that I don't want that. And so I decided to fail at that, even though I spent 5 years of my life learning animation, trying to get good at it, and it's very tempting at that point to be like, God, I don't want those 5 years to be a waste. I gotta keep going. I gotta make sure I'm successful at it, at least for a little bit. But that's the wrong decision. If you learn at some point that, no, I don't want this anymore, stop it immediately. As soon as possible, because every moment that you keep going down that path is another potentially wasted moment. So I decided, okay, no, I want to be a fine art painter. Okay, then I spent the next 10 years trying to be a fine art painter. And then along the way, I decided, this whole fine art painting thing, I'm still painting for other people. I'm just doing commissions and I'm painting for a gallery, and there's certain things that sell at galleries, and so now I'm just like painting these things that I think are gonna sell because I need to make money. And so I was like, well, I don't know if I want to, I still want to be a fine art painter, but I don't like this format. I don't like the way this business model works. So I want to figure out something on my own. So then I started just kind of exploring other options. Like, well, I was already teaching at that point, so I just let's start this YouTube thing. Let's start teaching more. I like teaching. Let's see where that leads me. And so I started using my, everything I learned for those past 10 years to teach. And initially I wanted to have a successful blog, a website where I teach with articles. Then I had to shift from that and I started YouTube. And so far, all of these things that I started trying to make this thing successful have failed. Because I've said, no, let's try this other thing. And now, I have a successful YouTube channel, which 15 years ago, when I started this entire journey, when I walked into the forest, YouTube didn't exist. That couldn't have possibly been my goal.
Yeah.
Impossible. I didn't know that it was an option. It wasn't an option. And so, long-term goals, it is impossible for you to know what you will be doing in a decade, in 2 decades. Yeah. Because the world will change, new opportunities will come that are better, like YouTube happen, and sometimes it just makes sense to go for it and do that. Hopefully the shift isn't humongous, like me shifting from art to teaching art, and then from blogging to YouTubing. That was an easy shift. It wasn't really that difficult. Also, because I had an animation background, I already knew how to edit video. So all that stuff did actually kind of come together eventually. It's just that I had to fail at 3 things before I finally succeeded at the YouTube thing, and yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest example in my life where long term you just cannot possibly know, and so you have to be okay with just pulling the plug and going for that next thing.
Okay, I'm with you.
Good example. How about you? I want to hear your example.
Well, I've got several examples, but the big life ones are setting out to be an illustrator of stories and humor and things like the illustrators I love so much. But this was way before the internet, and the opportunities to make money with art were for advertising agencies and illustrations of product. So I did not see it as a failure. I saw it as a way to get money to at least be in my studio and get my craft up. Now this is an aside, but I have a relative important in my life who just went out to try one entrepreneurial thing after another, and for more than a decade, for about 15 years, failed at everything, to the point of where, and was incurably optimistic. It didn't make any difference when something had failed. He just, looked at, okay, yeah, let's move on. And it would start to drive other people wild because you just don't take responsibility. But he did take responsibility. Yeah. It's just there was a kind of reckless spirit. But I was watching this through my life, and then it was starting to happen into midlife. Failure, and then one and then another of those things becomes successful and really successful, to where now you get to live in a nice house and take time off and those kinds of things. But that was a lesson for me to see that when things don't work, it's not the time to sit down and cry and fall into the fetal position, curl up in the fetal position, though you may. But if you get up from it and be that way, that was a life lesson that was not told to me, but was exemplified over a period of many years.
Yeah, that's a great example. I think that really shows that to be able to fail successfully, the title of this episode is How to Fail. How to fail is the way that this family member failed, which is continue to walk, continue running towards success. Just because you tripped doesn't mean you should just stay down.
Yeah.
You should keep running, keep walking, whatever.
Adjust.
So, yeah, exactly.
Learn from the failure. That's that OODA thing.
Yeah,
that's that OODO. Observe, orient, decide, act. And then when the action doesn't work, observe, orient, decide, act.
Yeah.
I hope I'm getting it in the right order.
Yeah. Yeah, if you tripped on a rock, well, now you know there's rocks. So don't trip on a rock anymore, right? Keep an eye out for those rocks. If you tripped because there's something wrong with your shoes, maybe you can adjust your shoes.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, yes. Eventually, you'll just get so good at running that you're gonna get there. But yeah, sometimes it takes decades. Because this thing is hard. All of these things are really difficult.
That's right. I mean, think about what the examples that you used and I just used had to do with great big life goals that happen over a decade. That's a big deal. I have a story about the time that I painted an album cover for my brother's band when I had a week break in college, and I tried to do it in airbrush, which I barely used in my life, and I didn't like the airbrush, and it was a nightmare, partly for not knowing how to use an airbrush. And there came a point after 4 days of investing in that album cover that I knew it could not be salvaged. And I can't remember whether I curled up in the fetal position or just slumped back in a chair for what felt like a life crisis. And the crisis was whether I should just give up on this job and damage my reputation as the family artist, or start over. And it was not a long crisis. There was something in me. Here's the best I can describe it. I knew that I knew more now than I did 4 days ago. And in less than 3 days, that album cover practically flowed out of me. And it was the greatest album cover in the history of garage bands in our neighborhood. And that album cover never got printed, so it wasn't like there was that much at stake and no client with money involved was waiting for it.
Nice.
By the way, I did do an album cover not long after that got printed, and the same thing happened. It was called Through the Fire, and I had to do molten gold with airbrush, and I didn't know how to render gold. And I was trying to make it look like the words were molten gold, but I tried to make them look shiny, but I could only make them look like pee. And so my studio mate, John Dickinson, and I did everything we could. We melted solder and put a light next to it to see what light does on it, and then it wasn't shining enough, so we put oil on it. And we did find out that when there's a specular highlight, that the other molten metal will echo the highlight, and you get little highlights bouncing around. And then John suggested maybe put a horizon line in there, but I abandoned, after a lot of work of cutting masks, I abandoned it, did a second version, and the second version looked pretty good, and it did get printed. So I was learning that on a job you can spend lots of hours and figure that they were an investment.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I really like about personal projects, whether they're paid or whatever, like versus assignments from class where you're just like practicing some very specific thing. Like we've been talking about that, I think, kind of frequently lately, that you have to make sure that along with these courses you're taking, you just have personal projects, because you'll run into things like this where you have real world problems that, like, no, people aren't going to assign you this in class. right? You just have to do real things and go through the process of figuring out how to find the solution on your own. Like for you, that experience of trying to figure out how to render gold was really useful because now you have a system for figuring out other problems that you're going to come across. Because you went, you melted solder, right? Like you went through all these things, and it every time it got you closer and closer to the final solution. And that process of problem solving is incredibly important, to just get good at problem solving.
Yeah.
And you get that more from personal projects. So you get better at succeeding by failing more initially and just like, what? No, does this work? No, does this work?
There was another thing that I didn't intend to say this, but it ends up being perhaps useful. We were stabbing around in the dark.
Yeah.
We did not have any idea how to render metal. What do? Do you use gold paint? No, you don't use gold paint. You have to render it.
Right.
And when you do one job, it tends to lead to another. I got hired by another speculative movie producer. He was putting together a poster for a film called The Spartans. And he wanted me to do shiny chrome lettering. And I recognized I'm going to get myself into the same, this had a deadline. I'm going to get myself into the same position. I was experimenting with reflections that were all over the place. It was chaos, and I thought, okay, I know Rick Griffin. I've got his home phone number. He's not the most receptive guy, but he might take pity on me as an early professional. And I called him and I said, I'm doing shiny metal, and it's not working. And you know how to do shiny metal. Could you help me? And he said, yeah, come over. So I showed him my preliminary work, and he pointed out the most obvious thing. It was beveled letters. So that means the chrome that's facing you is a mirror. It's going to show whatever's in front of it, which would be a horizon line probably, and a gradated sky, and maybe a concrete parking lot or palm trees or whatever. And he pointed out the inconsistency of that if this bevel is facing up, and so is this one, I don't see how come they're not showing the same thing. And if this bevel is facing down, I don't see why it's not showing the same thing the other. How did I never think of that? But it was like, all right. And I went home and figured every bevel that was facing a particular way is simply a mirror. So if it's red over there and it's green over there and it's black down here and it's blue up there, just do it. And I remember my dad seeing this. I was in my early 20s, a new illustrator. My dad seeing this lettering of the Spartans and saying, wow, you did that. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm learning how to render. Now, I think the point of this is that instead of stabbing around in the dark, it does help to have a mentor, a counselor, a teacher.
Yeah, of course.
A course that you've taken in rendering that talks about the logic of light.
Yes.
Okay, where do we go from here?
Well, one other thing about that, you said that you guys were like stabbing in the dark,
Yeah.
right? Every time you stab, you were expecting to fail, right?
No, I was expecting to succeed. Why not? I'm a good artist. I'm kidding.
Well, but were you really expecting to succeed every time you went for like, oh, this one's gonna work, or were you like, let's see if this one works?
Stan, I think I was expecting to succeed every time because I had that quality that is, what does people call it, the Dunning-Kruger effect?
Yeah, it's something like that.
I figured, I'm an artist. I'm an illustrator. I've declared myself so.
Yeah.
I'll do it, and everybody will say, you are an artist. So the surprise and the disappointment to find out, hey, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Oh, that happened to me many, many times in the first parts of my career and all the way through. It still happens. Only I think that what happens as time goes on is what Saul Bass talked about in that Strathmore interview, that you start to learn that this is the way. Your first attempts will fail, so don't freak out. Yeah. It's the difference between the 2 or 3-year-old who melts down
and the 7-year-old who starts to see, I'll try it again, is that we get control of the emotional disappointment enough to get into the zone of a newfound optimism based on what we now have called experience.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that, I wanted you to say, yeah, I was expecting, but no. Okay. So.
I do now know to fail the first few times.
Okay.
Or
cool.
Several times. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason I'm going in this is because I think it's really important to experiment. And when you're experimenting, you can't expect to succeed.
Right.
Because if you expect to succeed every time, you're just going to get sad when you fail 10 times in a row. But the funny thing about going into it with this playful mindset of just like, let's see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, that's cool. I'm just going to, I'll adjust and we'll see what happens then.
Yeah.
The funny thing that happens with that is like you get a better result.
I know.
It's weird. This happened to me last night. Christian and I we just decided to do like, screw it, we're not gonna work anymore tonight. We're just gonna paint for 3 hours. I guess we're kind of drained, from so much work. So we painted the last 3 hours of the day. We just like started painting, and and I was like, I've been admiring fashion for so long. And like, I just let's just try it. Let's just see if I could like do some stuff that looks like fashion. And I knew that this was an impossible task. Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna paint like fashion. And so I went into it with just like playful, I don't care if I get a good painting. And I got a really good painting. It's like the best I've done in a really long time. Because I was just playing.
It's a great irony of life that the harder we try, the worse we can do.
Yeah. No single brushstroke made me sad. Yeah. I never had a moment of, oh man, I suck. It was always like, that didn't work. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's also really exciting just to hear you say it. Yeah. It makes you think this is the first zone of creativity.
You want me to, here, let me show you.
Yeah, I want to see.
Okay.
Nice picture of Christian.
Whoa.
Immediately recognizable as the man.
Another thing about this though is I wasn't trying to paint Christian. I was just playing. Yeah. I was experimenting. I didn't even try. I did not try to get a likeness. And then I think it kind of looks like him. Like I could totally see things that are wrong, but I didn't even during that thing when I saw that's wrong. I didn't try to fix it. I was just playing. Messing around, and sometimes I would see, oh, this lip shape is totally not Christian's lip shape, but I kind of like where that shape is going. Let's keep going. Let's design this shape to just look cool. And I think in the end, it was just a much more interesting painting. And I'll just post a link to a better version of this because I don't know if you could even see it that well.
Yeah, I see it very well. Stan, it reminds me of what a number of actors have said, is that one of the worst things we can do, or that an actor can do, is to impersonate someone for the details and try to get it precise. That the better thing is to get inside their skin and feel their feelings and let all of the details come from that. It's picking up a spirit. It's picking up a sense of exploration and inventing something new based on it rather than trying to replicate it.
I was definitely basing this whole thing off of Christian's shapes, right? I wasn't just like, whatever, I'll just do the wrong stuff all the time. I was looking at the shapes and doing something, but when something happened that surprised me, I went with it.
Yeah.
Right? It's totally different from a commission where if something happened and it's wrong, I have to fix it instead of just like continuing on the journey of like, oh, well, this is interesting. Let's change it.
Yeah.
Let's fail at painting Christian. Let's paint something else that is maybe better, maybe more interesting. I don't know. I mean, Christian's a cool dude.
But you had the luxury of failing.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And that's the important thing is that you have to create scenarios in your life where you have the luxury of failing. If you can, try to go for that. Is put yourself in situations where failing is okay, and you get to create something new instead of a very, very specific task that has a very specific and unchangeable destination.
That pressure, which has its good and bad points, but it's the reason why Francis Ford Coppola stopped being a filmmaker. Or at least he said this in an interview. Francis Ford Coppola directed at least one of the greatest films ever made, or at least two, Godfather and Godfather 2.
Okay, yeah.
But he also did some of the worst films ever made. And he said once in an interview, I'm paraphrasing, but it was, let me tell you what it is like making a film. It is like being chased by a freight train where you're on the tracks running from the freight train, and while this is happening, people are saying, be creative, be creative, be creative. And there just comes a point where the pressure can be so much that it becomes almost impossible to do your best work.
One thing I wanted to bring up is, it's very much related, but like unrealistic expectations for yourself. So a lot of us have art parents, right? We had a whole episode on it. We tell people, choose your art parents, your favorite artists, and these are the people you're going to strive to be like. They're like your role models. Well, this kind of puts us in a slightly dangerous position where we judge ourselves, we compare ourselves to these art parents. We want to be like them. And that's not always good. Like, sometimes, yes. Sometimes we want to keep going and trying to change ourselves to be like them. But we have to realize that a lot of times these other artists, they lived in a different world. They had different problems they were solving than us. We live in 2021, or 2022, whenever you're listening to this. They lived in the early 1900s, or even before that, you know? Like, they don't have the same environment as us, and we cannot possibly be like them. So we have to have realistic expectations for ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost impossible, I think, for sculptors to be like Bernini today.
Why?
I don't know. I just think it's really, really challenging in today's world for someone to get as good as Bernini.
But I also think it was really challenging for anyone at that time to get as good as Bernini.
Oh, of course it's challenging. But the thing is, like, they didn't strive to have a balanced lifestyle and have a healthy family relationship, right? Like, all these things are very important to us, and they should be. But back then, Bernini or whoever could have, they spent their entire life just doing this one thing.
Yeah, there was a fanatical focus.
Yes, and I think it's really difficult in today's culture to be like that. But to get that good at something that challenging, where you're carving rocks, we have a disadvantage, I think, to get that good.
Well, you mentioned Bernini. I didn't.
Yeah.
But in the last month and a half, I've got 2 Dover books that they are the only 2 art books that I've been putting my head in, and I'm going to for the next few months. One is Frederick Remington, for gesture, for horses. The other is the Bernini book that Dover published for technique. The fact that he could put washes down so effortlessly, it's just, it amazes me. And so, yes, even last night, I was going through that Bernini book and thinking, this guy's technique is beyond belief.
Yeah.
His great portraits too. You know, I think of the great portrait artists, and I think of Rembrandt, John Singer Sargent, Fetchin, and then I forget Bernini captured personality in there as well as just about anybody. Now, but that's just love of Bernini.
Yeah. Well, one other thing about just being in this, living in a certain time. Specific times have specific instructors that people are learning from.
Right.
Information that is being passed around that is considered important and that people really cling on to. Like, you know, a lot of really good illustrators were trained by Bridgman. right? We can't be trained by Bridgman.
Yeah.
We're being trained by Bridgman knockoffs, or people who are trained by Bridgman or trained by people who are trained by Bridgman,
Yeah.
people who are trained by Bridgman, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're getting different information, and I'm pretty sure we're missing something really important that Bridgman said to those artists that made them click. Something click that made their art really good, and we're never going to get that effect of something. Or maybe someone will discover it again, but...
Part of it may be the electricity that comes out of the relationship with that particular teacher, too.
Exactly.
Now,
Yeah.
that was the case in the 70s, 80s, 90s with Baron Story as well in the Bay Area, that he was teaching so many illustrators that ended up being great illustrators were his students. And I started to find out how many people were good. He said, who did you study with? Oh, we studied with Baron Story. So yeah, but see, right now though, here's what's so good about it, is that you don't have to go to the Bay Area or New York or Florence or any of these places, because the knowledge is around, and the conduits of where you can get it is better than ever. So I think what you're addressing is that the teacher is one thing, but there are so many good teachers right now. There's no shortage of what do you want to learn that you can't find from a teacher. I think that it's the lifestyle that you were pointing at, is that we are distracted.
I'm pointing at everything. Yes, I think right now it's easier to get information, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of different things. Everything around us affects who we become.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't try to be just like someone who lived 100 years ago.
You're right. We can.
Because we just have so many different inputs than they did.
Okay.
So we can be better than them in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But we're also going to be worse than them in many ways. We're just going to be different. So all I'm saying is that it's really difficult to judge ourselves, compare ourselves to these people who lived a long time ago.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It's okay to try to learn from them, but to compare and then feel like we're failing because we're not like them is wrong. We're not trying. We shouldn't even try to be exactly like them.
No.
We should just cherry pick things.
Indeed. Yeah. Now let me throw out. I absolutely agree with you, Stan. That is the case. Is that if you just choose one parent or three parents, and especially if they're previous to your generation, which I think they should be, and you say I must be just like them. No, that's not wise. When I'm choosing Frederick Remington, who is way out of my league, this guy just knew how to draw and paint and sculpt so powerfully. But to use him as a touchstone right now, because I do know how to do it, I just can't do it as well, means that I might go on 100 steps. I might go from 50 or 60 to about 70 or 80 to get up to the 100 that he's at.
No, I totally agree with that, because it's very important to use art parents as touchstones, and that's the whole point of art parents, is that I'm not saying we need to just like not even look at them.
I know.
It's like they're very important.
Yeah.
I was looking at Feshen's work when I was painting this, when I was painting Christian, because I wanted to learn something from him.
Yeah.
There's something about his work that I just absolutely admire, and I want to figure out how I can get some percentage of that into mine.
So
Right.
what happens next with your fetching attempts? Do you do another one, and then if it fails, you fall down and say, I'll never try again?
No, of course. If I fail and fall down, I'll just try again. I was just having fun. I loved the experience. Marshall, I don't paint anymore to sell paintings. I paint to enjoy the process, and I had a blast doing that painting. If it
what a
and
life.
it doesn't look just like a Feshen, there's qualities of it that I think, hey, I actually did a pretty decent job. Like the background, when we have a link in the description, you guys will see the texture in the background. I think I did a pretty good job of my palette knife technique in the background. It looks very similarly to how his backgrounds look. And I was very proud of that. But like a lot of the parts in the face, no, they're not Feshen at all. Like I was trying, but no, they failed. But I had a lot of fun. Getting into the mindset of trying to paint like him still gave me really good results that I enjoyed doing.
Right away, I could see that you had hard edges and then edges where you lost the edges. which he does so much of, and that immediately looked like this was, it had a rightness to it to do that.
But also trying to get all those very natural textures in there that look like they just kind of came out of the ground. They came from the earth instead of a brush with hairs on it that are all parallel.
Yeah.
Right? That kind of quality is really big in his work, I think.
Take a look at your outline and see where we are.
I have pivoting, but we did kind of cover a little bit in this discussion already. But
give me a short definition of pivoting.
Oh yeah, like if you're on the path to get somewhere and you realize you're heading in the wrong direction, you got to turn a little bit. Yeah. It doesn't have to be turn around 180. You just shift 2 degrees to the right. You have to be able to adjust, reanalyze where you are all the time in your journey, and pivot towards a different destination that you think is a better destination for whatever reason. So I don't know. It could apply to anything. I mean, if you're on Instagram and it's just not working for whatever reason, try TikTok. I don't know. It happens. Like Christian has a friend who does guitar stuff. And I forgot his name. Sorry, we could put it in the description as well. But he was on Instagram for a while, nothing happening. Tried TikTok, he exploded.
Wow.
I don't know. The audience is different. The type of content he was making maybe just fits better on TikTok.
Yeah.
But then he pivoted towards TikTok because it was better. But that's such a specific example. I don't know. It won't apply to everybody.
But it is the same principle that Derek Thompson was using in Hitmakers. Is that it doesn't work, and then one little thing changes.
Yeah.
And one little thing pivots the whole failure to success.
Yeah, it's not like he shifted careers. He was still trying to teach teach guitar stuff with little videos on social networks.
Yeah. So this is a big lesson, is that even though you can't tell what's in the forest, if you're going to go into the forest and you're alive and awake and responding, you can make a difference. When you see this is in that direction, that is in the other direction, I make a choice. Whereas we can't make a difference if we just didn't go any further into the forest because we didn't know what was ahead.
Yeah. But see, we keep bringing up these success stories where failure led to success. Sometimes, and I lived through like a full decade of this feeling where I keep failing. And it's like, how do you live with that for so long without quitting? How do you feel good about failure? Is essentially, how do you stay motivated about failing? You got an answer?
I do. Because when I had my heart broken at the age of 19, a girl who I was crazily in love with, but who was not quite the same in love with me and just wanted to be friends, and all of my family and everyone who knew us said, oh, you two together. And then when I called my best friend to let him know that she didn't want me anymore. This was a landline at his home. She answered the phone. And I remember I was so shattered by this.
Is this a movie? This is a movie, right?
No, this was my real life. I was so shattered by that, and I was driving along the freeway, and my grief shifted from sadness to, I don't have to deal with a relationship right now. I can put my energy to art and do what I've wanted to do, which is to try to be an artist and not spend all of my time with it. Was
really?
Now you can say it was sour grapes. It was. Do you know the story about sour grapes?
No.
The fox tries to get, this is an Aesop's fable, I think. The fox tries to get the grapes, fails to get the grapes, and then says, they were sour grapes anyway.
Oh, maybe they weren't sour though? The fox is just making up a story?
Yeah, it's just justification, and that was going on in me. It's like if I can't go that route, I've got another route that I've declared I want to go anyway, and this will free me up, and they can go play together, but I'm going to work on my art so that I can be a professional artist in the next few years.
You pivoted.
I pivoted, and I also...
Pretty big pivot. But...
I still grieved over it for the next several weeks or months,
yeah.
but I didn't act on it. I didn't act on the thing that I can't get. It's like this it simplified my life.
Your brain wasn't stuck on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It actually turned into optimism, and it turned into optimism in a short period of time. There was a sense of, okay, this is a provision to not be engaged in that relationship.
Yeah, I had the same feeling when I was let go from Watts. I was like, for several hours, I was like, man, that sucks. I really liked it. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. I got this thing going that I really like doing. I'm a YouTuber. And then I was just like, oh my God, I have so much time now to focus on this. And it was great. But still, I don't know if that answers maybe it does. It does maybe answer my question.
It might, because my next relationships didn't succeed either, so...
Okay. So then what if you then failed at being an artist? And then you pivoted to something else, and then you failed at that? I mean, eventually, like, what do you do? Because that's gonna happen to some people.
Yeah.
It was happening to me. I just kept starting all these businesses, and it wasn't succeeding, and I would, like, it was years and years, like, I started at like 17 trying to do this, and then it wasn't until I was 26 or when my YouTube channel actually started to make enough money to move out of my parents' house.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a series of so many failures in there that, I mean, I never actually was sad about it, but I don't know why I wasn't. I'm trying to figure it out.
Well, if it was to keep happening for 15 years, it would either mean that when your success happens, it's going to happen. It just takes a long time for this plant to blossom, and it looks very unblossomy in the meantime. Or the other thing, which is that, what if we're self-sabotaging? What if the reason we're not succeeding is because of what we're doing wrong and are blind to? And that is where inviting counsel, that is where having truth tellers in our lives that will say the thing that here's why it's happening, is that you do this, this, and this. And when you get that from more than one of your people who care about you, or even more interestingly, a therapist doesn't necessarily care about you. Yeah. Which means that they have the luxury of not letting, you can't punish them later for having told uncomfortable truths. It's their job to tell an uncomfortable truth. And so there, it's getting feedback from someone who's got sensitivity to what's going wrong, where we don't have it, because we can justify our every crazy or dysfunctional action.
Can you give me an example of self-sabotage for like as an artist?
Yeah, lots of them.
Yeah, please.
But one of them is a famous illustrator who people wanted to hire him because he was a famous illustrator. But whenever they hired him, they found out he was the most unreliable guy you could find. And there came a point where within his industry, it wasn't advertising, within his industry, people just didn't want to hire him anymore because the stories got around that he was irresponsible, that he was so famous and respected by fans that he could just not meet deadlines or give you something that you didn't order. That is an example of
Is that self-sabotage?
That's self-sabotage because he made less and less money as time went on. And was,
I thought self-sabotage is when you are doing it to yourself even though you know it's gonna hurt you. It's like you're intentionally sabotaging yourself.
He wasn't intentionally sabotaging himself. He was just giving in to his impulses.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, you can say that any negative trait about us is self-sabotage.
Yeah, you could. If it goes unchecked and it damages what you're seeking, then it is self-sabotage. It means it is not the road that's causing the trouble. It is not the weather that's causing the trouble. It's the car itself that is breaking down and not able to keep going. Some theologian called it the interior castle. It's the reason why it's not just the problems outside the castle. Sometimes it's the problems inside the castle that make the castle fail.
Yeah. See, I thought it was more that, like, deep down we are afraid to succeed, and so we're like doing little things to stop ourselves from getting there. It was like a more psychological. That's what I thought it was.
That is another thing.
It is.
It's probably a better definition, where it's unconscious.
Yeah.
That you say, I really want to do this, but if I do this, I could make money, and if I make money, I can't depend on that other person to support me. Or if I do this, my social life will change, and I will not be able to spend as much time with my friends, and I sure don't want to make them mad because I'll be on the road most of the time, so I'll make sure that this doesn't happen.
Yes, and it's subconscious. You're not literally thinking,
That's right.
I'm going to be a dick and try to just leech off of my parents for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
It's deeper down. Your subconscious is making you make these bad decisions because you're afraid of something successful happening.
A friend of mine found that out in therapy, that he was letting his health go terribly, and he sort of rooted it out with a therapist, that one of the reasons it looks like you're letting your health go is that you've been wounded so badly in relationships that if you've got terrible health, nobody's going to want a relationship. It's going to be hard for anybody to want a relationship with, and so therefore you're going to be safe from that kind of pain. You'll take the other kind of pain, which is what you do to your body, but you'll never have to experience that one you know so intimately. Yeah, that's the self-sabotage that is secret.
Yeah. Or you and all your art friends are all struggling to become successful artists, and when you get that opportunity that might be the big break for you, you feel like, oh, but my friends are going to get jealous, and so you sabotage yourself from getting that. You do something that messes up your chances because you don't want to mess up this bond you have with your friends.
Oh yeah. There was a movie that Anthony Hopkins was in before he was the big star he became later, where he was a ventriloquist. I think it was called Magic. Anyway, that was a grueling portrait of self-sabotage with this guy who was an entertainer in nightclubs, as I recall. It's a depressing portrait of self-sabotage, but sometimes looking at a self-portrait like that, another one, the one that was most powerful to me, just personally and emotionally, even though I'm not an athletic or a fighter at all, is Raging Bull. If you haven't seen Raging Bull, see it in Blu-ray, in full screen. It's difficult to endure, but it is a powerful, masculine portrait of self-sabotage. And Blue Jasmine is a really pathetic, very, again, very difficult to watch portrait, feminine portrait of self-sabotage. But those are negative pictures. Our responsibility to not be like that is what they trigger. So I want to show you where you're going if you continue the way you're going.
Yeah.
We've been keeping it pretty positive up till now, so I suppose throwing in a negative counterpoint might be useful.
Yeah. And you know how I said that I'm not sure why I stayed positive since like the 10 years of failure and not being able to support myself. I think I might know. I think maybe it was because I always had several things going on. Mm-hmm. And so when one thing failed, I was still excited about that other thing that I'm currently working on.
Yeah.
So the one thing goes down, leaves room for that next thing to just get more exciting for me.
Yeah.
And it would just immediately replace that emptiness.
Yeah.
So I didn't have time to be sad about that thing that just failed because I was excited about the next thing.
Yeah. I think also, from the conversations we've had, I think that your family of origin gets some of the credit for this, that you were raised with a balance of encouragement and admonishment. That was, if it's too much one way or the other, that's where we fall over. But if it's balanced in the middle, that I am encouraged and I am held responsible, then we can keep from falling over on either. your side. And when we did the strengths discussion,
Yeah.
one of your strengths was self-assurance. This guy is like one of those things that you knock over and he goes right back up. You knock him over the other way and he goes back up. You've got a sort of base of emotional stability that allows you to be knocked over and pop right back up.
Okay, cool.
This is free therapy.
Thank you, Marshall. I feel good.
Do you know who Baron Story is?
No. You want me to look him up?
Stan, he's a great illustrator that also did fine art and did everything. 70s, 80s. It's spelled B-A-R-R-O-N-S-T-O-R-E-Y.
Uh-huh.
And so many great illustrators had him as a teacher, so he was multi-accomplished. And he came to speak at a school where I taught, and he showed his career, which was fascinating, and the varied things he did, and his intense convictions. And I had heard that he made his students do work, finished work, that they had to tear up in front of the class.
Oh, you did tell the story.
Okay, but I might not have told the whole story.
Yeah, okay.
I'm in there in the room, sitting on the front row with one of my students, and after he opened it up for questions, I asked the first question. I said, is it true that you would have students do finished work and make them tear it up in front of the class? And he looked a few ways and he said,
Are you saying I'm an asshole?
and I said, no, I mean, I think he picked up from my vibe. I said, I've heard that that's what you do, but I want to hear from you that that really is what you do. And he could tell I was respectful and I really wanted to know. And then he launched into a passionate speech with flailing of arms.
That have you ever noticed that tweaking never makes a piece any better? And that you've got to tear down and rebuild. Tear down and rebuild. Shiva is a many-armed god that is, you must destroy before you can make something come alive again.
And I mean, he was just like,
before you can make something come alive again.
and I mean, he was just like a volcano. And that dominated the whole rest of the entire question and answer time
about what a waste of time it is to try to make something better that isn't going to get better when you can tear it down and build it up again. It's a principle of the universe.
That was amazing.
I kept thinking, if I had had this guy as a teacher when I was 19, I might have been a great artist, so that I would not have had several years of continuing to invest in what wasn't working, but have gotten in the habit of tear it down and build it up, tear it down and build it up, and enjoying doing that. Like a child who builds with blocks very carefully and then knocks it down and rejoices, giggles when they knock it down, because it means they got an opportunity to build it all up again.
Yeah.
And that kind
great.
of spirit, yeah. Frazetta did that. I've seen Justin Sweet do it. I know of a lot of, there are filmmakers also. It's hard to do that with film, but sometimes right up until the end you change it, yeah.
Yeah, when you told that story last time, I mentioned that Pixar did that with several of their films.
Yeah.
They just took it wasn't working, the story wasn't working, and the story is the most important part, so they started over with the story.
That's right, we did.
Yeah.
But starting over can be one of the best things in the world when it's chosen and embraced, and a newfound energy of, look what I've learned from doing it wrong. Now, watch me again.
Yeah.
Get knocked down again? Look what I've learned now. That is the energy that I think makes people great at what they do.
Yeah. But I'm glad you told that story again, because that was a much better way. You told that story so much better when you started over.
Thank you, Stan.
Yeah.
You're so sweet.
Yeah.
By the way, look up on YouTube, Temple of Art, paper plane.
This is on a 1 minute 49-second video. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's Baron's story. He mentions in there that he is absolutely dedicated and addicted to the process.
I am a man. I am an artist. I am a failure. And I must proceed.
And he is really big on you get into the process of creating art, and then all of the result of it is a love of that process, which includes his willingness to scrap it.
I love that. That's great.
Okay, well, thanks for being with us.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Hey, that was nice.
1, 2, 3.
Wow, that's a sight of you don't often see.
Bye. What's up, Marshall?
Fatherhood is bringing out the best in you.
Thanks.
How do you define dad humor?
Bad puns?
And why is it not just called bad puns instead of dad humor?
Oh, I didn't come up with the name.
It was a number of years ago that somebody told me they liked dad humor, and I'd never heard the term before.
I guess when you have a young child, and you try to be funny with the child, you can't tell good jokes, intellectual jokes. Like, you gotta just tell like really stupid jokes, and then you just get into that habit. And then all your jokes become targeted towards a 2-year-old.
Yeah, as soon as you go out into the outside world that does not love you like your small child does.
Yeah.
It just, you didn't make the grade.
Yeah, my son right now, his only joke is just adding poo-poo to the end of it.
Yeah, I know. I found this out as an uncle, that if you are prepared for the family gathering with every word that rhymes with poop for a song that you know what your punchlines are, you are the bringer of the highest forms of hilarity.
Yeah. I came home the other day, and Melissa's like, he literally said poo-poo like 122 times today.
Yeah.
Every sentence ends with poo-poo. Anything Melissa says to him, he'll repeat it and add the word poo-poo to it.
He's learned how to be funny.
like, Cooper, it's time for lunch. Like, and then he's like, Cooper, it's time for poo-poo. It's like,
he does not know that the joke is him.
Yeah.
Well, Stan, how are you today?
Doing great.
Me too. Glad to be here.
Good. I'm not in the same place as you, but I'm glad to be here where I am.
Yeah, we're in what are we, about 80 miles away from each other?
We're too far away.
Yeah, the people in other parts of the world won't know. What is that in kilometers? How far away are we? It's about an hour plus drive away from each other when there's no traffic.
In what kind of car?
In a car that goes the speed limit.
On what kind of road?
On the 5 freeway, which is about the only way to get to your place. There are other ways, but then you have to go inland. But people might not understand that in Southern California, I could, if I leave at midnight, get down to Stan's in about an hour. But if I leave at certain times of the day, it could take 3, 4, 5 hours.
Oh, God. I hate where this conversation went.
Yeah, I do too. I'm sorry about it.
Let's go.
And nobody cares.
Yeah, this conversation is worth $0.
Ah, you're establishing a theme.
Yes. We're going to be talking about pricing today. We've gotten several questions, and somehow the past few episodes we've gotten on the topic of pricing artwork in some way, and so we're going to just do a whole episode on pricing artwork.
Okay. Pricing, which would also include negotiating?
Sure, if that's where you want to take it.
Well, I don't know. I'm not a good negotiator. You know, Chris Voss has a whole masterclass on negotiation, and he's the guy who negotiates for hostages. So it's like life and death stuff. So he probably has something to say that will bring more value to the conversation than we can bring.
Yeah, I've never had to negotiate prices in my art. There's no negotiating. I'm not selling at a flea market. You know, where someone will come up to me and look at the sticker on the painting and be like, how about $75?
Yeah,
And I'll be
yeah.
like, how about 78? Like,
Yeah.
I don't do that. So it's like, if you don't like the price that's on my site or wherever at the gallery, you don't buy it.
Yeah. Well,
There's the negotiation.
I have had to negotiate on some really
Really?
big jobs, yes, and I found that sometimes the negotiation goes on for a couple months because there's so much at stake. And one time that did happen, and it was a major thing, and I got it, and then later it was all axed. But you know, it was a shame that I put that much energy into it.
Yeah.
But I did, and I felt so exhausted for all of the going back and forth and how are they going to respond to it. And when I got what I wanted, it was a sense of victory. But I thought, I don't know that I want to go into battle like that again. And
Yeah.
the persons who made negotiating the easiest of any I knew, one was Drew Struzan. He said, I just tell them what I charge, and if they can't afford it, I tell them you need to find someone else.
That's one thing. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I just realized as you were talking about that, I am currently negotiating, but not for the price of my artwork. This is a totally different side of business that most people probably will never have to do. But like right now, I'm negotiating with a very large brand that has very, 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 very popular IP
Yeah.
for making a Proco course. Can't disclose it, but you know, this is a giant corporation that contracts take months to negotiate because, you know, I'll say, well, you get this much royalty, we'll propose something, and they'll negotiate, they'll come back with something ridiculously small, and I'll be like, wait, what? That's not gonna work, and then we'll go back and forth, and eventually you kind of have to find a middle ground, or you stick to what you originally thought, if your original thought was how much you think it's actually worth. But you got to start weighing the cost benefit there, seeing like, okay, I might be getting paid less than what I wanted, or I'm paying them more royalty than I wanted, but I'm getting more than just this thing that's in the contract. There's also other benefits to doing this with them, and you start weighing all these things and deciding if it's worth it or not. And if it's not, you just say no. You just got to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time doing things that are not worth it, because opportunities will come.
There's usage rights and time, the amount of time that something can be used, and all sorts of other complexities in it.
Yeah, the contract we're doing now, it's like a 50-page contract, and it's very dense. But there is, you know, parts of it are related to cost and stuff. So there is negotiation there. But as far as negotiating the price of my paintings, I've never done that.
Yeah.
I've always just said, you don't want it, don't buy it. Like,
Yeah. It's usually usage rights and ownership of what you can do with it afterward that the complexities happen.
yeah.
You ever seen the movie Network? 1976.
No.
It's a movie I've seen many times. There's a wonderful scene in there, a negotiating scene that takes place in somebody's house over TV rights. But anyway, it's, to me, what can happen in a negotiating meeting where somebody has to fire a gun.
You can blow the Seminole prisoner class infrastructure out your ass! I'm not knocking down my goddamn distribution charges!
And give her the fucking overhead clause.
Okay. I've never seen it, so I can't comment.
Well,
I don't know.
Some of us aren't fans of the process.
Yeah.
The only person I know who is a fan of the process is an artist that I know, William Stout, who told me decades ago, I like negotiating. It's an art form. And he sees it that way.
It is.
And does it that way. And so to him, it is very much something he wants to be involved in.
Okay, cool.
Most artists simply get agents, or they used to get agents and reps to do the negotiating and sell.
If you want something, you have to work for it. And most people that think that the world is based off of luck have never truly worked for something. I call it a game of possibilities. The more you try something, the more refined you become. And the more refined you become, the better you become. Everybody eventually will capitulate into crypto because it is an asset class that will exist. And we go into a digital world, you need digital money. So from a logical standpoint, it makes sense.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lotgenoot podcast. My name is Koen. Next to me is Jaro, and in the opposite of us, we have a special guest this week, this actually tonight. Normally we do recordings during the daytime, but you just came out of a flight.
Just arrived from Albania, brother. So
Albania, man, straight to the studio.
From one studio to the other, brother.
Yeah, great to have you here, man.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen.
Welcome. How was your day today?
Day was good. Last night I sat down with the former governor of the Central Bank of Albania. Talked about monetary policy, Bitcoin, crypto, central bank digital currencies. And of course, as you guys know, I'm here in Amsterdam now, going to sit down with a couple entrepreneurs. And the opportunity arose to sit down with you gentlemen. I was like, let's talk money. So
great.
From Albania to Amsterdam, 24 hours.
That's great, man. We love to talk about money. We talk a lot about money. And I know that you know a lot of things. You have been doing a lot of things. You have been in the e-com space. You have been in the crypto space. You are the owner of Capital Club, a networking space, doing a lot of stuff. But for the people that don't know you yet, the Dutch people that are listening right now, maybe some other people from foreign countries, who is Luc Belmar?
Well, Luc Belmar is an immigrant from Argentina. Went to the United States at the age of 16 with $200 in a suitcase. With a lot of ambitions, a lot of goals, a lot of dreams, but with a very clear purpose and a very clear mission to make it out, right? To make it out of this thing that we call the system. And as I drive through Amsterdam coming here, you notice the system is very prevalent, you know, how people live, how people move. And I always knew deep down that that wasn't what I wanted for my life. I come from a small town, 12 to 15,000 people in the outskirts of Buenos Aires. I don't know how much Dutch people like Argentine since we keep schooling your guys' ass in football every World Cup. But it's good.
Yeah. But our king is piping down one of the hottest Argentina women, so.
Hey, bro.
Hey,
you give and you take. You give and you take. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, at the age of 16, moved to the United States with $200 in the suitcase. Went from pressure washing basketball courts, cleaning toilets, flipping wings at a Buffalo Wild Wings, sleeping in my car for a time being. It was about like 4 or 5 months, to eventually getting exposed to Bitcoin. I heard of Bitcoin in 2015 for the first time. And then when I often tell this story, people are like, well, Luke got lucky. I'm like, I don't think I got lucky. I was exposed to information, but that doesn't mean that you need to necessarily act on that information. I remember watching a documentary on Netflix, I forget exactly what the name, I think it's called Banking on Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And the gentleman, they would actually go out on the streets, I think it was Wall Street, and would tell people, hey, would you have a Bitcoin or would you take this $5 bill? And everybody was like, well, I'll take the $5 bill because it's real and I can see it and I can touch it. So a lot of people were exposed to the opportunity, but not everybody capitalized on the opportunity. I remember being in a situation whereby in the United States, I don't know how it works in the Netherlands, but if you wait tables or if you work in a restaurant, you get your cash tips. So in the United States, it's a tip system. Mm-hmm. But every day, the restaurant gives you those tips. That is your payday, basically. So I would get that cash tip. I would drive to the ATM, and I would deposit that money. I had a 1998 Buick. It was an old Buick. It was like a mafia car. I fucking loved that car. Yeah. I crashed it, but eventually I had to upgrade. But it was a nice vehicle, nonetheless. I remember depositing the money. It was a Wells Fargo bank account. And since it's a cash deposit, you see the money instantly displayed in your bank account. So I would instantly get on my computer, and I would go to an exchange called Bitstamp. And Bitstamp was an OG exchange. You know, it doesn't have a lot of liquidity or popularity right now, but back in the day, you could use your debit card to actually purchase Bitcoin on that exchange. So I would every single day use 50% of my money that I would make that day to buy Bitcoin. At that time, it was a couple $100, $500, $600. This was the end of like 2015, 2016, so pre the bull run of 2017. 2016, I got exposed to e-commerce through a couple of buddies, through the internet, which it was pre-popularity, if you may call it. It was pre
before the hype,
pre-guru season.
All YouTube all over dropshipping, this,
Correct.
that, and all
So there wasn't a lot of information, there wasn't a lot of infrastructure, and people on that side will be like, well, you got lucky about that as well. You got access to e-commerce when it was fairly easy. And once again, what I say to that is, just because it was accessible, it doesn't mean it was easy. Why? Because the infrastructure wasn't set in place whereby fulfillment centers were easy to access, payment processing, they screwed any sort of e-commerce or drop shipping because it was seen as high risk. So there was a lot of uphill battles, but there are different uphill battles. Today, the uphill battles are, you have, you know, your advertisers, like your advertising platforms like Meta or Snapchat, they don't like drop shippers because they have a bad reputation. They're high risk. So you get a lot of bans on that side. You still have issues with payment processing. And then you have competition when it comes to the barrier of entry, because the barrier of entry is quite easy. All you have to do is open up a store with Shopify. Back in the day, Shopify didn't have all these crazy plugins. I remember the App Store was very new on Shopify, and I remember I would have to learn the basics of coding to like code in my own, the own size of my checkout button, the color of my checkout button. It's pretty OG. Did quite well in e-commerce. I rode the wave of crypto in 2017, up and down. I wrote it down. I didn't make a ton of money. Why? Because I didn't understand market cycles. But I was like, you know what? I think I did 140x, 140 to 160x on my portfolio. I forget. But I lost it all. Right? I lost it all. And a very simple number to evaluate whether that's true or not is look at Cardano. Right? Cardano went from half a penny to $1.60. I rode that entire thing. It was like 2 to 3 weeks. Same thing with Tron. Tron, I think, went from like a penny to like 30 cents or something like that. And then XRP went from 13 cents all the way to $3.50. So I rode all of those tokens. I remember buying Bitcoin again. Still, I think I have some videos of it buying Bitcoin when it crashed at like $4,000. And then a couple weeks later, it was up at 15. So it was a great season. But the issue was I didn't understand market cycles. I was left holding the bag. Because everybody was, back in the day in 2017, it wasn't diamond hands like like in 2020 that chant. It was the hodl, right?
Yeah.
The hold on for dear life, and I held on for dear life, and I got fucked. So I sat down there. I'm like, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? What I did right was I allocated my money in an investment vehicle, or what a lot of people like to call a high risk investment vehicle, and it played out. Why? Because money moves from different markets at different times, and Bitcoin has its cycles. After the Bitcoin halving, 1.5 years later, the market tends to have a really good season. So I was like, it's going to happen again, and it did. But this time I was prepared. And in 2020, after doing $16 million in e-commerce, did quite well there. Had some money already saved up. I put all of my money into crypto, except $10,000. Now, my entire thesis from that, it's not that I'm a genius, but I was connected with really good people. I was in the DeFi boom of 2019, so I saw Uniswap do extremely well. I was like, you know, there's something interesting with DeFi. This was pre-YouTube videos of DeFi and everybody telling you how to open up a MetaMask account. It wasn't very popular. But that which is not popular is often a good idea. And the reason it's a good idea is because you don't have the normies and the average individual as a part of the mix. When the average individual is in the mix, it's usually the end of the season. When the taxi driver is talking about crypto, when your grandmother's talking about crypto, who else is left to buy? Truly. Because those are usually the most uneducated, most uninformed, usually the people that are getting the information the last. The hedge funds are positioned, the market makers are positioned, the venture capitalists are positioned. Smart money's already in the game. And then what they do is very simple. They'll go to CNBC, they'll go to Fox News, they'll go to Forbes, and they'll pay the journalists to write articles on their behalf to do what? Increase eyeballs, because the newbies, they read these things. And then the information gets dispersed, gets disseminated, and that information then leads to what? Liquidity.
Yes.
Yeah. And the liquidity is where the smart people get out.
Mm-hmm.
They get out on the liquidity of the news. So in 2020, I think it was March of 2020, I remember using an exchange. It was Kraken and Binance, before they were cracking down super heavy on it. And I had my orders already placed. So I had orders placed for Ethereum sub $100. I had Cardano at half a penny, XRP at 13 cents again. And it was the COVID crash. You know, it was the big black swan event, and all of these tokens and all of these orders got filled. Right? So I remember I was playing Call of Duty, and I see my phone going off, like the little vibration thing, and you see the notifications, all this shit's getting filled. I'm like, oh fuck. At that time, I was kind of scared too, in the sense of, okay, is this actually going to zero? Because mind you, bro, Bitcoin went from 20,000 all the way to 3,500. That was scary, right? But it's usually in the fear that you have to buy into it, and it's in the fear of missing out that you have to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And the markets are quite psychological. And when you understand that the psychology is actually manipulated by people, you can in some way, shape, or form understand the cycle. Now, by no means am I perfect, but it worked out pretty well. I remember being on Clubhouse, it was in 2020, and that's when the app was really popular and popping. And CZ from Binance hopped on there, and he was giving a kind of like a Clubhouse meeting with other crypto people. I tuned in, and I got the opportunity to ask him a question, because I remember buying BNB in 2017 for $2. For the BNB token, which went to $600+, I was one of the first people that was actually buying BNB for $2 when the exchange was extremely new. I was a big fan of Binance. I still am. I think they're fucking dope. And that's no advice to put your money there, because you never know how exchanges go. But I was a big fan of it. They've done a lot of good for the space and helping it grow. But I said, okay, BNB, it's correlated to what? The exchange. So there needs to be more growth factors and more kind of coal to the fire to keep the engines running. So at that point, I asked CZ, hey, you know, Uniswap has a competitor. They need a competitor. They're on the Ethereum chain. And I just saw that you launched the Binance Smart Chain. Extremely new. There was no YouTube videos on it. I think when I went to type on YouTube the Binance Smart Chain, there was one guy talking about it from India, and then one guy from China. There was like 2 or 3 videos. So it was super small. Right? Yeah. It was just gotten started, just launched. And then there was an old guy, some European guy, that made a video about it on how to like connect it with your MetaMask wallet. Because you look at MetaMask, the default is Ethereum, and you have to increase different chains. You have to do this whole like nonsense, right? So he said, well, you know, we're trying to compete because the Binance Smart Chain is going to increase the demand for what? For BNB, which is the native token of the platform, therefore driving up the price. Most of the employees, most of CZ's wealth is attached to the BNB token. This is just how it works. So to increase demand, you need to create demand. So he was like, yeah, well, there's other DeFi projects, one of them being PancakeSwap. And I'm like, well, what do you know about PancakeSwap? And he stuttered a little bit. And then he was like, well, I don't know. I think they're a team from Turkey. And he started giving me information. I'm like, well, if you don't know this anonymous team, how is it that you know where they're from? You know how much, like, how they're doing. You know that they're safe, that they're well put together team, that they're professionals, and they are. These guys absolutely crushed it. So I went back and I was like, dude, like, maybe I shouldn't be betting on projects. Maybe I should be betting on people. And I bet on CZ. So I purchased, at that time, PancakeSwap was $25 million market cap. Very small. I purchased 1% of the supply for $250,000. And from 25 million, it went up to a $2.6 billion market cap. I sold, I think, at about $36. But my selling point was one of the co-founders of FaZe Clan, the gaming org. He texted me, and he said, hey, should I buy SafeMoon? And this was the week that SafeMoon had migrated from the Ethereum chain to the Binance Smart Chain. And I said, I'm out. He He's a gamer. He's not a crypto guy.
Yeah.
And that's during the shitcoin season. You guys remember when people were creating
course.
tokens out of thin air?
The ding doing coin and all the
All
bullshit.
the bullshit.
Yes,
So I was
yes.
like, okay, this is the end, because people are just making shit up. At that point, I remember sitting in Mexico, $36, cashed out, and it went up to I think $42, $43, and I felt like I'd missed out. But thankfully, I rode that wave pretty well. I did quite well with that investment, made some good money, and the reason I got into crypto was, in fact, I had a buddy come to visit me at the time when I was making still money with e-commerce, and we went to a restaurant, well, a fast food restaurant at the time. I don't endorse seed oils anymore, but it was called Chipotle. I don't know, it's like a Mexican fast food place, and the bowls there are like $12. So I'm here with this crypto multimillionaire who's made a fuck ton of money in crypto. And he's like, hey, Luke, like, he like whispers in my ear, he's like, hey, can you pay for my lunch? What do you mean? I thought you were like rich. I thought you were inviting me to lunch, you know what I mean? And he's like, no, well, I don't have any money. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have any money? He's like, yeah, all my money's in crypto. And I'm like, what the fuck, bro? Like, this guy knows something that I don't. This guy, like, understands the game. This guy plays well. So I went back home, put all my money in crypto. And it worked out. Cashed out of Bitcoin at 55,000. Cashed out of Ethereum at 2,950, or something quite high, and it worked.
But you listen to the crypto millionaire, but do you think like we talked about it before, like it wasn't luck that you met up with the crypto millionaire and that he said that thing and that you listen and then think like, okay, now I have to go all in on that. But with Bitcoin, like, okay, when it's on like 55,000, right? How did you make the choice to get out on that moment, not later on or earlier?
There was 3 reasons. One is it was enough money that based on my expenses, I would never have to work again. So it was like, okay, yeah, I can make more money. It was in the multiple 8 figures, over $40 million in crypto. And I was like, okay, like maybe it goes to 60, maybe it goes to 70 Bitcoin each, but like, is it gonna actually exponentially change my life? But if this shit crashes, right, it's gonna hurt. So at this point, it's not a multiples game, it's a preservation game. And I did not want to repeat the cycle of 2017, bro. Like, that shit fucking hurt. That shit hurt. In 2017, I became a millionaire on paper and lost it. And I was like, okay, like, shit, I don't want to do this again. So in 2018, made my money with crypto, became a millionaire again, right? And then eventually I was like, I gotta just multiply, but then I have to preserve, which is the motto and the premise of Capital Club, to create, multiply, and preserve wealth. Because in every facet, the ideology and the processing has to change of how you think about information. But the markets are completely tied to the policy of the Fed, right? So when the Fed decides to print money or they decide to buy assets, that's when the market pumps. And when they say, hey, we're no longer buying assets, the market dumps. And you need to correlate the people that work at the Fed. They put out, it was a big announcement. They said, hey, we are selling all of our assets because it is a conflict of interest for us to be in the markets while the markets still exist. Within 30 days, that was the top. I sold when they put out that announcement.
Yeah.
It only made sense. And people can call it luck. I call it a game of possibilities. The more you try something, the more refined you become. And the more refined you become, the better you become. I could have easily been in a situation where somebody could have told me about Bitcoin. I remember telling a buddy, multi-millionaire stock trader, 2017, buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, get into crypto, no, it's a scam, it's a Ponzi. No, I'm going to trade my penny stocks, I'm going to do my own thing. And he ended up buying the top in 2021. You know what I mean? So everybody eventually will capitulate into crypto because it is an asset class that will exist. And we go into a digital world, you need digital money. So from a logical standpoint, it makes sense. Crypto makes sense. And what we need to understand is that there's ebbs and flows of the market, there's demand, and at the end of the day, there's also saturation. At some point, there is no more money for it to continue going. And I saw that with crypto. Maybe I got lucky selling at 55,000, but does it really matter?
Yeah, that's true. Also, do you notice that not hesitating when you make choices? is a really big part of the game. So even though you know you made a wrong choice, you did it without hesitation. Because if you keep doing things without hesitation and start making better choices, you start making the right choices while being sure. Because what I notice sometimes is you try and do something, and even though you get better, because you know there's more possibilities, you start to hesitate about the choices you make and you don't fully commit. Did you have to go through the journey of not hesitating about the choices, or have you always been completely sure about all the choices you made?
I think it's about the information that you have and about the level of conviction. Because you have to be convicted about something, right? You have to put your chips on the table about something. And the last thing you want to do is live the what if game. I can always make more money, right? I by no means am I advocating, hey, if you have $5,000 in the bank, go put all of your money in crypto. No, go learn how to make money. Go learn how to develop cash flow. Go learn how to build a business. I had enough money whereby if I lost that money in crypto, I knew I was going to make it again. But it was a bet I was willing to take. And I took the bet and it worked. And I realized that if I lost that bet, I was okay too. Why? Because I developed the skills to build and scale digital businesses. So it wasn't a confidence on the decision. It was a confidence in my ability to make decisions.
Yeah.
Based off of the skills that I have developed. Yeah. And if the decision doesn't play out, that's okay. Because I have developed the skills and I have trust in who? Myself. I'm going to fuck up. But it's all a game of probabilities. It's not a game of luck. And you have to increase your probabilities by increasing your skill set. And that's what a lot of people don't do. They don't work and they don't increase their skill set. Leonardo da Vinci famously said, God will sell you anything at the price of labor. And that is true. So what you have to do is if you want something, you have to work for it. And most people that think that the world is based off of luck have never truly worked for something. Not enough to understand that luck does not exist. It's merely a game of probabilities. You work hard, you work more, you work longer, and eventually you can increase your odds of success.
Koen, I wonder, do you still drink tap water?
I do, yeah.
You do?
Every day.
There's a lot to do about tap water these days.
I know, and I drink like 2 liters a day.
Yeah,
It's really
me too.
insane.
I drink quite a lot of tap water. But more and more people are turning on tap water because it would be very bad for you. And I think other people that listen to this that are, for example, from America, they've got a pretty good case to make about not drinking the tap water because there's a lot of fluoride in some of the waters and other shit. And in the Netherlands, more people are turning on tap water as well. But the funny thing is that one of the biggest problems about the water, about the food as well, it's not about the fluoride or those shits. It's about something completely different. Do you know what I'm hinting at?
I'm thinking that you are talking about the PFAS, if I pronounce it good in English.
Phthalates and
EDCs. EDCs.
Which is short for endocrine disruptive chemicals.
Like microplastics, right?
Yeah, it's usually microplastics are a big part of them. BPA as well, which used to be in a lot of plastic bottles. If you leave them out in your car, after you drink the water, you're drinking almost pure cancer, is what they say. But these endocrine disruptive chemicals, let's just call them EDCs, nowadays they're in most of our food, most of our water, and they're a very big problem. They're even this big that over the last 50 years, the male testosterone levels dropped over 50%.
Over 50%.
Exactly, over 50%. Even better, there was a recent study as well, which looked at 21 years old in the year of 2019, so it's a few years back. They looked at their testosterone level. If you look at the testosterone level in 2019 of the 21-year-old male, and you look at the average testosterone level of the same 21-year-old male 15 years back, so when you were 21, 15 years earlier, so in 2004, they used to have a 36% higher testosterone levels on average.
So we are less masculine than
we're fucked.
We're actually fucked.
Yeah, we're fucked. Just
it's not getting better, right?
No, man. It's dropping by about 2% a year. So if you're looking at a couple of decades down the line, there's a chance that we're nearing 0% male testosterone.
Is that even possible?
I mean, 0% is probably not possible because then you would be all out of whack, and I don't think it's possible. But levels are going to be very fucking low.
Yeah.
And the results are going to be, of course, not being able to reproduce. So this, what do you call it, overpopulation problem. Well, it's going to be fixed in a couple of decades.
Yeah, we don't have to do anything about it. It's gonna be
just keep eating the fucking plastics and drinking and eating the shitty food, and let your testosterone levels go to shit. But we recently started using a supplement to upgrade our own testosterone levels, which is pine pollen.
Yeah.
And pine pollen we use on a daily basis. We just add it to our supplement stack, and it's very interesting because I've got it here because I've been using it, but there are so many different good things about pine pollen that I had to write them down because I don't all know them. But the main thing is, being an entrepreneur, your vitality and energy levels are very important because you're vital when you have a lot of energy, you're able to focus, you're able to put in a lot of deep work and get shit done. So it's crucial for successful days. And since taking the pine pollens, because we've done it a couple of months now to perform our health, it doesn't only boost your testosterone, but it also boosts your focus, reduces stress levels, and I can read here because I don't know all this shit out of my head. It's 100% natural, figured as much because it's just pine pollen, and it contains over 200 active compounds.
Okay.
It's very readily absorbed by your body, so it's very easy. Then there's a big question, is it a miracle cure? No, fuck no. Your sleep needs to be good, your nutrition needs to be right, you need to exercise regularly, because that's the fucking baseline. If you're not doing that, yeah, of course your testosterone levels are gonna be shit. But just like taking creatine, there are extra things you can do, and pine pollen is one of those things. And what do a lot of people, because we've been using it, but there are hundreds of listeners that are using it as well, and what have you been hearing from them? Higher energy levels throughout the day, increased focus, reduced brain fog, and improved sexual health with natural testosterone, which is very nice. But what makes the pine pollen so powerful? Do you know?
I don't.
No,
actually. No,
because
tell me.
I was looking into this a bit further because I've been using it for quite a while, but I don't know, $1.20, and then never got to the point of the success where they can die happy or die satisfied. Where do you think those types of people go wrong? Because they seem to be working hard, or at least they think. What is the thing that they're not doing correct, or what's going wrong in them not succeeding in what they want to reach?
Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're productive.
True.
And a lot of people think that because they're busy, they're actually productive. I can see a lot of entrepreneurs, see how they conduct their daily life, look at their daily habits, and realize if they're going to be successful or not. Why? Because the allocation of time, which is one of the resources that you have, the allocation of energy, another resource that you have, and the allocation of attention, another resource that you have, are dispersed, and they are dispersed everywhere. There is no sort of focused attention towards an objective. So everybody that says, oh no, I'm working hard, I keep trying, I'm always educating myself, I'm investing my time wisely, if you could actually evaluate these people's lives, you would realize that it's bullshit. Because most people waste time, they waste energy, and they waste attention. But if you could focus energy, time, and attention in the development of your character, in the development of your relationships, in the development of money-making skills, there's skills that help you make money. Making money is a skill. If you don't make money, you have not developed the skill of making money. And for you to consider that you have is a lie. So if you look at your bank account, and your bank account reflects X amount of balance, it's a direct correlation on your level of skill when it comes to making money. If it's low, well, my friend, you don't know how to make money. If it's high, my friend, you know how to make money. And there's different proportions and different levels to that. Now, there are instances of luck. I'm not saying that luck doesn't exist, but I also understand that I can create my own luck by increasing my odds of success. Who I surround myself with, what I listen to, how I educate myself, who I listen to, what I do with my daily habits. And eventually, I can turn this unlucky beginning, or the cards that I've been dealt of being an immigrant, having $200, flying from Argentina in the flight attendant chair, because I couldn't even get a coach seat, right? To becoming a multimillionaire.
I'm pretty curious then. A lot of people are talking these days about the energy that you have during the day. You have 24 hours, the time is obviously very clear, but your energy, how do you give something your energy? Like, on what places and what things. How do you spend your energy?
Well, first you need to know what your goal is. Most people walk around with no goals, no ambition. They don't know where they're going. It's like a ship with no destination. If you don't know where you're going, you'll never get there. Once you know where you want to go, then you direct your time, your energy, and your attention to what? To the execution and the achievement of that goal. If you want to make money, you will make money. If you want a good network, you will have a good network. If you want to build a great podcast with great hosts and great guests, you will build a podcast in that way. It's all about intention. But most people walk around in life thinking that life is just a big fat lottery. And it's just not that case. Those that live by the lottery of life most likely end up losing because you're just gambling. I don't want to gamble with my life. So what I do is I set a goal and then I focus my time, energy, and attention, which truly are the only assets that you have. So when a lot of people come to me, they're like, Luke, I have nothing. Brother, you and I have the same exact thing. Time, energy, and attention. But what you use your time for, it doesn't yield a return. What I use my time for yields a return. You get paid in proportion to the difficulty of the problems that you solve. Elon Musk said that once. You get paid in proportion to the difficulty of the problems that you solve. Most people that don't make money, they don't solve problems. They don't spot problems. They don't capitalize on problems. If you solve small problems, you'll get paid very little. The guy flipping the patties, like Tate says, somebody's got to flip the fucking burgers.
That's true.
But they solve very small problems.
So
they
you
get
get a
paid in
small
proportion
thing.
to what? Solving that problem. You put a man on Mars, you'll get paid in proportion to solving that problem. So you need to focus your time, your energy, and attention to solving big problems, and hopefully your goal is to serve humanity. So you align your goal with a servant's heart of providing for humanity. And of course there's scammers out there, there's people that aren't good, but I'm not talking about those. I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking about people I want to build real, sustainable, and scalable businesses. That is going to require time, energy, and attention. But you need to know where you're going.
What were the goals that you had when you came over to the States with the $200? And did you have the big goals, or did you have to figure them out yet? Or did you have a very clear goal as you have right now?
My goal was freedom. That's it. And I had freedom when I was living in my brother's apartment, spending $200 a month in rent.
I'll eat this magic piece of fruit that came from
Eat
the
it with the
backyard
skin.
tree. Pardon?
Eat it with the skin on it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You were gonna do that anyway? Oh, wow.
You're committing a taboo, Marshall. To eat on a podcast.
Is that a calamansi?
I'm told. It's a kumquat. Off the tree. There's something about fruit off the tree that is just great. Yeah.
Maybe it's because it's fruit, and fruits are great.
Yeah.
And fresh.
Life is so good.
Yeah.
We're gonna do the Draftsman podcast, man.
Oh, dude.
Bro.
Cowabunga.
Welcome. This is the Draftsman podcast. I am Marshall Vandriff, an art instructor.
I'm Sam Ricopenko, artist and instructor, immigrant, son, husband, father. Alright, so we're going to be continuing with the Art Schools Project series. We talked about the pros and the cons of going to art school. We talked about how do you recreate art school. If you're not going to go, you're going to need to get knowledge somewhere. You're going to have to figure out a structure for yourself that you can't get from the school. Mentorships, we covered that. And today, we're going to talk about community.
You ready? We are. We're going to talk about community.
Oh, we're going to do this.
Yes. Let's go.
Do it right now.
How would you define community?
Healthy togetherness.
Healthy togetherness. That's a beautiful definition.
You wrote it.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, I didn't
no
write
wonder
that.
I like it, yeah. In our last episode, we talked about friends as mentors.
We did talk about it.
We mentioned that it's like you might go to your friends.
Yeah.
I want to tell you about a master class that I have not gone all the way through, but I've gone about 2 hours into it. It's Steve Martin's master class.
Yeah. Wait, how long is it?
Well, I don't know how long it is. Maybe 6 or 7 or 8 hours. I don't know.
Oh, wow,
But
really?
I sat with some friends and we watched an hour and a half of it.
Uh-huh.
And I was so impressed with Steve Martin as a teacher. He uses great big maxims, philosophical statements like use your rivals or love your rivals or something like that. And then he gives specific instances from other people's lives that he knows and from his own career. Here is someone who has made over $100 million by being an entertainer, and he is going to give you his wisdom about how it's done and his own story of how it's.
What does he teach? Stand-up comedy, acting?
It's mainly about stand-up comedy, but it's not only about comedy. It's about comedy writing, and it's ultimately about a life in the arts, in the entertainment arts.
Being an artist?
Yeah. Now this was at the end of a semester of me teaching a genre class in which the first half of the semester was to adopt your genre, study your genre, and complain about your genre. And then at the midterm, you make a report and you come up with some ideas of stuff you want to work in. The second half of the semester is to evolve your genre. See how you can make it better.
Define genre.
Genre can be anything. It can be stand-up comedy. It can be heralds. It can be tattoo art. It can be oil painting. Anything you want. Because it's something you're going to adopt and say, this is where I want to excel. This is where I want
a medium?
It can be a medium.
But it doesn't have to be a medium?
It doesn't have to be a medium.
It could be like comedy.
No, yes, it can be comedy.
Okay,
it can even be animated comedies that look like they're for kids, but they have dirty jokes in them.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Now, the thing is, genre is a very fluid, the definition of it is hard to it's just categories. One student chose psychedelic art. I had two students in there that loved the 60s and 70s, and they chose
my second favorite.
They chose that as a genre, which I know really well. Rick Griffin and the psychedelic artists, poster art and that kind of thing. And they did some. I don't need to take too much of an aside.
Yeah, reel us back into community.
I'm excited about the genre class. Now, at the end of that class, that's when I discovered Steve Martin's master class. Here's what he tells you to do. Get together with your best friend or your smartest friend and talk to them about the history of what people have done with this, with stand-up comedy, for example. Hash out all the stuff that you've liked or haven't liked, and then ask, what has nobody done so far that could be done and nobody's thinking about doing? He said, don't do this for an afternoon or a lunch. He said you should spend days and days on this.
Like go on a retreat.
Yes.
Go camping with a friend and just focus on brainstorming something.
Yes, and that is what he did. And that is part of how he changed the world of stand-up comedy. People don't know what a big deal was.
Who was his friend?
I don't remember him saying.
Oh,
but he did talk about, he gave specifically some of the things he noticed that everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
And that nobody was doing this, and that I could do this. Everybody was doing political humor at the time because of the Vietnam War. And he decided people just want a chance to not think about this, so he's going to do stuff that was not about the Vietnam War. But he's very specific in the course. I don't need to teach his course for him.
Yeah.
The point is, your best friend or your smartest friend, this is more than one person. You are talking about it. You're looking at it from different angles. It can be the Brandywine School of Illustration. I know of Justin and Vance did that. I mean, they knew Howard Pyle and N.C. Wyeth and Frank Schoonover and all of that bunch. They knew those compositions inside and out, and they had opinions about them. And then they start to emerge on the scene as people that are doing something like that, and in some ways, even with a greater impact. So this is where friends become your most
Man, you're reminding me of so much stuff that happened when I was going to art school. I mean, I went on several road trips or camping trips with my friends from art school where we would go plein air painting, we would stay at like a cottage, we would have our art books and we would argue about why this is good, this is bad, and different types of art and what's important, like why are we artists. We'd have these discussions that are really important in our development, and you can't get that by yourself.
Yes, that's community.
Yeah.
Of the rock and roll bands, Led Zeppelin evolved from album to album, which bothered us because every new album, this is not Led Zeppelin, and then we'd listen to it and we said, wow, this is a good album, it's just different. And they mentioned in interviews in Mojo magazine back about 2003 that they
would go to a place, I think it was called Bron Eyre.
Where is that?
It was a cabin retreat out in the woods that I think it was Robert Plant's family used to go to that when he was a kid. And they'd rent a cabin, and they're done with the tour. They've worked really hard, done the tour. Now they go to this cabin, and they bring records, and they bring new musical instruments, and they mess around, and they play. And they rediscover themselves. Now, they're not doing it alone. They're doing it among 4 of some of the most talented musicians of their time. And they supposedly, on one of those, wrote Stairway to Heaven in 17 minutes, because it just kind of came out. There's even an early recording of it. But this is the idea. A band